Hi, folks. How you doing? Appears to be working. There was a little snafu with the way I set this up, but it appears to be working. Welcome, episode 30, Heavy Metallurgy, with
We're
my
back again.
mighty host, Alan, Professor Steele. How are you doing this week?
Doing okay. It's been an up and down week, but not too bad overall, and glad to be wrapping it up here on Heavy Metallurgy tonight. We've got a very cool guest lined up and a fun topic, I think.
Yeah, we've been wanting to get him on for some time, and finally the planets aligned and everything's working out really good. So we're going to bring him on here in a second. It's Jurgen from the band Repent, and he also has I'll get him on and pronounce his name correctly. I don't know. I think it's Jurgen Aumann. Am I right?
I think so, but
Am I right, Jurgen?
We probably should have asked him that before.
No, he says no. I can see him in the thing going no. But yep, great YouTube channel. It's first time I discovered him was through that, and going back listening to his band. Pretty blown away with what I heard, to be honest with you. And let's bring him out, get him out here, and see how he's doing. How you say your last name, sir?
Aumann.
Aumann. Okay. Aumann.
Yeah.
Okay. Jurgen Aumann. Okay. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Especially at this late hour, because there's a little bit of a time difference.
Yeah, that's not a problem for me.
Yep. For anybody watching, Jurgen's over by Nuremberg somewhere. You're not in Nuremberg. You're close to it, correct?
Yeah, it's about 12 miles.
So 6 hour time difference.
I live in the countryside. So that might cause some internet outages, but I'll be back because I live in a digital wasteland.
Mine does it too. After midnight, typically it starts cutting out. But yeah, we did a test the other day and it popped out. But he'll pop back in. It won't be a big deal.
Yeah, should be no problem. So,
Jurgen,
hello,
I do
everybody.
want to talk to you about Repent.
Yeah, let's do
1992, and I got to say, you guys came out at a time where thrash metal maybe wasn't as highly favored in the metal global community. Things were kind of changing during that time, weren't they?
Yeah, in Germany we had grunge. I think in the US as well.
Oh yeah.
Thrash metal just died out. Every band was not really wimping out, but changing their style a little bit, like Metallica did a year before. Testament did on the Ritual, and we thought, let's do it. But I wasn't in the band back then. I knew them from the beginning, but I joined the band in 2008. So with my old bands, we played a lot of shows together, so we knew each other.
Right.
And back then in 2008, they lost their singer, so they asked me. Yeah. That's the story.
I did notice that going through your band camp. I started going back, and there's a definite difference in singers. You bring a lot more power and ferocity to the mic than I don't want to talk any shit about the old guy, but I mean, you definitely brought the aggression up in that band quite a bit.
This makes the difference. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't drink, but I did. And I wrecked my voice for about 18 years before joining them. And I can sing shit.
So what's this? You guys are keeping the spirit of the old thrash style alive, and like we were talking about earlier, I think a lot of newer thrash bands these days they inject a bit of a modern element to it. And I listen to you guys, and I definitely hear the old spirit, but it's just more fierce than a lot of, and it doesn't sound modern and polished and super technical. It's just really well played thrash. I mean, what's been the inspiration to keep this going for, since 92? I mean, there's some gaps between some of the albums, but I mean, you guys have definitely kept your head to the grindstone for sure.
Yeah, it's just the fun. Meeting each other, playing concerts, writing songs, hanging out with each other, practicing. That's the most fun. Yeah, we just can't stop. I think I talked about that in an older video of mine. I tried to stop about 20 years ago. I said, I'm old enough, I'm in my mid-20s, and I'm going to quit music. That lasted for about half a year.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you've been in other bands as well before Repent, right, Jurgen? Do you want to go through some of your sort of previous outfits?
Yeah, I started playing music in 1988. We had a little fun band with no real instruments, and we got from there. My first outfit was Inhuman. That is our first CD. This is from 96.
Nice.
Inhuman, the band name is not too original, and there was another band from the US and another one from, I guess, Portugal. So this is the same band, so we changed name to Soul Demise. This was our second release. We recorded another album with a Soul Demise that looks like that. And after that, that was right at the time when I said, okay, I want to quit. Like I said, half a year later, a couple of friends of mine asked me to join their band. That was Violation.
I have that CD somewhere in a promo form.
Yeah, with a black and white cover,
The
released
black and
on
white cover. Yeah.
Red Stream Records.
Yes.
Yeah. We've got that deal through Andrew from what's the black metal band? Damn it.
Oh, Juice Iscariot.
Yeah, right.
Andrew Harris.
Andrew Harris, yeah. He
Akhenaten.
lived in actually at that time he lived in Nuremberg.
Oh.
Did you know that? He
No.
lived in Germany for about 2 years. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's why we got the deal. A little fun story. Wait a second. So in that Violation CD, there's a picture of me, but I didn't sing on the album.
Ah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I had a different singer, and I joined the band after recording the album, but before releasing it. And with the Soul Demise album, there is a picture of another singer they got after me, but we recorded the album prior to that. So,
Small scene. What are you going to do?
yeah. Incestuous is
Yep.
that's the right word.
Yep. Incestuous. Yep.
After that, I joined a band called Final Breath. This was our first album. That one was I can't figure it out, damn it. Was released through Nuclear Blast. I've been playing with them for 15 years or something like that. But then I joined with Final Breath. I had to travel 150 miles one way to practice.
Mm.
Oh.
So I decided after well over 15 years, I'm gonna quit that.
Yeah.
And then I joined Repent. This is our latest album.
Great album.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it, I can't figure it out. Yeah, it's been quite a while. This one is from, of course, it doesn't say anything. 2019. And we are writing new songs at the moment. So let's see what happens next.
The pandemic's been kind of as we were talking the other day, it's kind of set you guys back a bit. I was kind of surprised that Germany is still so locked down in certain areas.
We are going to have a strict lockdown next week. They announced that today. With, I don't know the word in English, but we are not allowed to go out after 10 o'clock in the evening.
Curfew.
Curfew, yeah, right. Yeah, but that's what's happening.
Wow.
We can't do anything about that.
Nope.
Yep.
But let's talk about music.
Yeah, I want to hear about how you decided to start doing your YouTube channel. It's a fantastic channel. Everybody go. I've got a link in the description for you to go click on his channel. Check it out. Amazing record collection by a guy that's lived every groove on those records. Grown up with every groove for sure.
I started watching Scott Waters and Mark G and your channel and whoever was around. Lazarus.
Yep, Lazarus was a big one for me and Scott. Both of those guys were like, I can do this maybe.
Yeah, the grandfathers.
Yeah, for sure. They've been at it forever.
Yeah. And I saw Scott Waters showing, talking about the first Deliverance album, and he was searching for an OG press. And I thought how to get in contact with him. I wrote him a couple of emails, but he didn't reply. And I offered him to just do a trade. I'm going to send him the original, and he sent me back something else. So I decided, maybe I'm going to try it via YouTube. That was the idea for my first video.
Awesome.
And then I received a couple of good comments, and I decided, yeah, let's move on.
It gets kind of addictive, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
I never thought something like this would be fun, but once you get over the jitters of setting up a camera and talking to it, it becomes fun. You get to know people, and it's a cool community for sure.
Yeah, and you've got this is a global thing. That's the nice thing about that.
Yeah,
you get in touch with a lot of people from all over the world. Another channel I want to mention is Holzbar Metal.
Oh yeah, Renee is awesome. I love his channel.
Yeah, he's so funny.
Yeah, I love it when he gets drunk and gets on there and just starts ranting. It's so much passion. It's just a fun channel. Good channel to watch.
That is calming down for me. That there's a couple of people whose English is not too good.
Well, mine's not that great either, but we're gonna try to get through
it. If I can find the right word, I've got two gentlemen who can help me out. So
right on.
No problem on that one.
We'll do our best.
Yeah.
Do you have any more stuff for Jurgen before we jump into this, Alan?
No, just if folks aren't familiar with Jurgen's channel, I think the two things that stand out are, one, you've got, complete discographies by just everybody, it seems. Jurgen's channel is full of, excellent videos ranking all the Destruction albums, ranking all the Rage albums, and he's got every single one of them on vinyl to show and go through. So they're a really great way to learn the discographies. If there are bands you've heard a few albums by, but you have missed a bunch of albums, or there's just a lot of gaps in your collection, Jurgen's videos are a great way to check that out. So we originally wanted to give Jurgen a chance to show off some of his amazing collection that you can see there behind him. But when we talked about some topics, unfortunately, they were things that Marty and I had done with some other guests recently. And then it occurred to us the other thing that I think Jurgen is really known for is he not only owns discographies of every great band out there, he's also seen them all live at one point or another. He's either played with them on stage or he's seen them on one or more tours. And so we thought, it might be really fun and cool to just have Jurgen go go through and tell us some of his favorite concert memories from shows he's played or shows that he's been to, because he's seen more shows and probably everybody in the comments combined, I would wager. And that's the kind of thing that a lot of folks haven't gotten to experience. They didn't get to see all these bands on these big tours back in the day. And so that seemed like it would be a fun opportunity for Jurgen to really go through and share those stories. Folks really like hearing about some of those older things. So we will have Jurgen back again in the future, and we'll definitely get into that amazing vinyl collection. But yeah, we thought this time maybe folks would like to hear about some of his favorite concert memories, since he has such a long list of tours that he's been able to witness firsthand.
I think we're all gonna. Did you grab some too? Do you have some on hand too, Alan?
Stories for concert stuff. Oh yeah, of course.
Okay,
Marty and I
cool.
will share some of ours too, for sure.
Okay, I don't know if I missed that memo or what. Okay, we're all good.
Oh no. We'll all participate for sure. But no, that was just kind of the other thing that when I think about Jurgen's channel, it's always the amazing vinyl, but also all these just excellent stories about having seen this band and that band. But those stories are scattered out all over, different videos and different chats and stuff. So this would be a chance for folks to hear a bunch of stories all in one place and kind of hear some of the, some of the funnest or coolest, or even just, some of the biggest disasters that, we've ever seen on stage. Whatever we feel like sharing tonight.
The disasters almost all happened after the show.
The next morning.
Hey, Aaron. 10 points for smoking on camera. Boss move. I don't do that for showing off or flexing or something. I just do it because I'm a poor addict. I can do without my cigarettes for 3 hours or 2 hours.
He was also on here earlier asking you about AOK.
That is, I think I can't explain that. AOK is probably the worst band in the world. They released a couple of albums, and they can't play anything, and they've got stupid German lyrics, and AOK is probably the most hated band in Germany. So that's a little bit of an inside joke.
Well, all right, Jurgen, we're going to get going with you here first. So let's get this rolling.
Okay, we are here to talk about our favorite concerts. So my first choice is... Oh no, that's the wrong one. Maybe we're going to start with that Red Hot Chili... No. What about that one? No, I'm on the wrong stream.
Technical difficulties here.
I have to rearrange myself.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
You're losing all your true metal street cred. We talked you up big, and now it's just, damn.
I just did that on purpose.
Of course.
Maybe first of all, we should talk about the difference in festival culture between the US and Germany. Mm-hmm. That's why we are able to see so many bands. First of all, we don't have to drive too far to see festivals. Germany is a small country, and we go everywhere within at least 6 hours. So there's no problem. Even over the border in Holland or Belgium, France, we can go everywhere within hours without flying with our cars. That's probably the first difference. So we have the chance to see every single tour. Yeah, so it's no problem. Then we've got a lot of festivals in Germany, and the festival culture. I talked with Marty about that a couple of minutes ago. The festival culture started in the 60s in Germany, and they developed quite, how to say it, the festival culture is healthy. I just have a couple of festivals. We have Fuck the Commerce Festival. That is grindcore death metal. We have the With Full Force Festival. That is more heavy metal and a lot of hardcore. We have Grass Pop Metal Meeting in Belgium. They've got the big headliners, the really big headliners. It's a pure metal festival. The last time I've been there, we had Kiss playing one day, Judas Priest playing the next day, and on the third day, it was Iron Maiden as headliners.
Nice.
Wow.
And that's all in one place, so that's for sure an advantage. Rock Hard Open Air was done by Rock Hard, is a German magazine. Yep. They've got the big headliners, and they gave the smaller bands chances to play. We've got niche festivals like Hammer of Doom. This is, like the name says, solely dedicated to doom metal. So you've got headliners like Pentagram or Candlemass or I would say Dying Fetus. No, they're not doom metal. Saint Vitus, something like that. So, and that is just around the corner for me, and I know the organizers. Have you heard of Keep It True Festival?
Yes. I've always been jealous. Would love to go to one.
Yeah, where they basically they resurrect a lot of the old bands. Like Sirith Ungold played their second gig there after the reunion. I know the organizers, so sometimes I work for those festivals.
Cool.
And the organizers of Hammer of Doom, they also do a Metal Assault, the festival is called. The last time Metal Assault, we had Artillery, Witchfind, Nasty Savage, stuff like that playing, so it's always fun. Then we have Party Sun Festival. This is probably the most famous extreme metal festival in Europe. So we've got crowds from all over the world there. I met people from Argentina, I met people from Sweden and everywhere else. We have stuff like Bang Your Head Festival, that is only basically heavy metal. That's a nice one as well.
This is all Germany. Holy crap.
Yeah, this is all Germany. I think did I tell you on our test stream back in the day, and now not that much anymore. I've been to maybe 15 festivals a year.
Wow, you did not mention that. That's amazing.
That's like more than one per month on average.
Yeah, that's right. That's only during the summertime. They start.
So they tend to be in a certain time of year.
Yeah, the outdoor festivals, they start in May, and they sometimes do it up till October. So it's getting freezing cold outside at night, but
yeah.
Then a festival I went to when I was young, which is pretty famous, Dynamo Open Air in Holland.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard about that?
Oh yeah.
There are a lot of live recordings. Testament did a live at Dynamo. Forbidden did a live at Dynamo. What else? Sacred Reich. There's an EP live at the Dynamo. That was a festival I've been to very, very often. And that's in Holland. And Holland is about also maybe 6 hours to drive from my home.
Uh-huh.
And then I think the most famous of all, Wacken over there.
Of course.
So I think that's the big difference. We have a lot of festivals and a lot of opportunities to go, basically during the whole year. So, yeah.
And it's a good. We were talking earlier. I think it's a good culture for the musicians as well. I mean, bands.
Mhm.
If you got a good manager, or you can get on some of these festivals. It's great exposure. Your band is going to probably grow a lot quicker than the average band in the U.S. that maybe tours for a week a year or a couple weeks a year and plays a bunch of crappy small clubs to 10 people, and they're treated poorly and get discouraged eventually and break up. There just seems to be such a great culture, and it's very nurturing for heavy bands to get off the ground, you know?
A lot of bands are playing club shows in between. When Dio did that a lot back then, he played festival shows in Europe. He was over here for maybe 3 weeks, and he plays secret club shows in between. So you've got I've seen Dio play in front of maybe 200 people.
Wow.
So that's another point. Maybe sometimes you come home from a festival and you see on Monday you've got Sepultura or someone else playing in a small club right around the corner.
Actually, Alex, Metal Neanderthal asked earlier, and I've always wondered this too. Why is Germany so ravenous for metal? It probably is the most metallic country of them all. Why do you think that is?
I can't explain that. I don't know. Maybe it's German folks are very, very sincere, and they are very loyal. We don't have the crowd jumping on the next trend as quickly as in other countries.
Right.
Maybe that's it.
Something to do with the sound too. I mean, you listen to the early thrash bands, Creator, Sodom, Destruction, 3 bands that sound nothing alike to each other, but they have this really vicious, dark spirit about them. And but they were individuals, you know, that musically, sonically, they were individuals. I mean, of course, that happened a lot in the early days too. I mean, there wasn't as many bands, and they weren't the big influencers back then. They were just new bands, you know.
I talked to Tom Angel Ripper and Schmier about that, but why it all sounds so vicious, as you said. And they said it wasn't on purpose. It was just like disability, and we had no real producers who could produce metal, so they had to go in some other studios, and they didn't know better. So maybe that is why German thrash in particular sounds so vicious. I think it's the same story in South America, Brazil, for example.
Oh yeah,
they might have had the same problem, so to say.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, Brazil, for example, is a very corrupt city. You know, between the police and way people are treated. There's another influence for bands like Sarcophago and Sepultura being so dark and nasty, and I don't know. Its environment, its sound, it's all of it plays a part in a band building a legendary status, I suppose.
Yeah. But in Germany, we live quite protected, so to say. So that's not the point with the German thrash.
Sure.
We have a good healthcare system, good social system, up until now. I don't want to talk about that, but
All right.
It's starting to decay everywhere.
Oh, things are rough, man. It's rough.
Yeah, just laugh about it. stay on your inside.
I
don't want to talk about that.
Well, I think Jurgen set us up real good. Do you want to jump in, Alan, with maybe a little story, and we'll circle back around here?
Sure. And yeah, I think those are very important differences, and those were good to highlight, Jurgen. Just for context, I mean, for a 6-hour drive and you can get to any show in your entire country. 6 hours for me, the only big city within a 6-hour radius of me that gets shows on a routine basis would be Atlanta. So any other direction I drive for 6 hours, I'm not going to find anywhere that has a show. And yeah, I have no doubt I've been to a lot fewer shows than either of you just because of geography. I grew up in the country in the southern part of the U.S. where there's not as many big cities, and there's not been as well developed a heavy metal scene, maybe as even other parts of the country. So a lot of times tours just completely skip this part of the world. I remember, like growing up in high school, kids in my high school class, we didn't even really think about going to see bands because there was no way to go see bands. In very rare occasion, a big tour might go to the closest city to where we grew up, where a band might stop. I can remember 1 or 2 times where a band stopped was about a 90-minute drive. But again, it was kind of a rural 90-minute drive through the mountains and stuff to get over to the city. It was the kind of trek, the outgoing families might make once every month or two. For the average person, it might as well have been 900 miles to get there. I was trying to think, this week while we were working on this topic. Yeah, I can remember Def Leppard came to that city and played when they were on the Hysteria tour. And it was a huge deal. Kids trying to figure out, it's like, is there any way to get there? How do you get tickets? How do we find cars to go? My sister was desperate to go to that show, and our parents would not let her. So she did not get to see Def Leppard back then. But yeah, there were probably a couple of others. But I mean, it was an extremely rare thing. I can't come up with more than 2 or 3 examples throughout my whole adolescence of growing up where there was a band of any name recognition that was even within a 90-minute drive of where we grew up. So yeah, I really didn't start seeing live music until I went off to college. It was one of the things I was really excited. It's like, hey, college, there's supposed to be bands playing all over the place, and I'll be able to go see heavy metal all the time. And it was the early 90s, and as you were saying earlier, Marty, heavy metal was going through a lot of changes, and the part of the Midwest I ended up in for college, there was just nothing for heavy metal scene there. Zilch. There was like one band, and it took like 3 years before I got to see them play live a single time. So yeah, that didn't work out so good either. But yeah, the geography in the United States is just really crazy. We have big festivals, as well, but it's this one little point in this giant place, so that it's very hard for anybody, for a lot of folks in the U.S. to get there. Or it becomes a major, outing where, yes, you've got to, fly. You're going to have to take extra days off just for travel. It adds significantly to the expense, which makes it really difficult logistically to get to those things. I was trying to think. I think, yeah, there's only been one time I've flown to a festival in the U.S. It's most of the time the cost is just a bit prohibitive. And some festivals too. I don't know if it's as much of a problem in Europe, but there have been issues, with some of the bigger festivals in the U.S. They don't always have a good reputation on delivering the bands that they are billing. There were several years there for some of the festivals where they'd have headliners advertised, and folks would go and be like, oh yeah, that band, we never actually got them signed to a contract and stuff. So that always left kind of a bad taste in folks' mouth too with some festivals, that you go to all that time and expense, and then you don't get to see the band that you just paid, $400 for an airplane ticket, in the mid '90s to actually finally get a chance to see. So yeah, it's a very different scene, and sometimes hard to get to see bands. I haven't really told a story there, but yeah, just kind of comparing and contrasting, how different it is. Now, Marty, you have been in a very different part of the U.S. than I. What's been your experience growing up and over time? How accessible were bands and shows for you?
The same. I live in the southern peninsula of Michigan, the northern part of the southern peninsula of Michigan, and teenager, I was fascinated by all these bands. I was picking up at Camelot Music, the Creators, the Sodoms, you name it, and always dreamed of going to the shows. And little did I know that there was quite a scene going through. All the touring bands, the extreme bands, were going through southern Michigan, Detroit area, mainly Grand Rapids to a certain extent. But being where I lived, I just never heard about it until it was gone. It wasn't until I went to this show, my very first show ever, St. Andrews Hall in Detroit. This was, I have the ticket stub taped to a thing. January 13th, 1990. Me and my buddy Scott got in the car. People were telling us we were going to die in Detroit because Detroit was so bad, and it's not great. It wasn't great. It wasn't great, but we made it. We probably stopped at every rest stop to pee because we were so scared. But
Marty, sorry to interrupt, but just for context, so I mean, Detroit's still in Michigan. How long of a drive was it for you to get to Detroit?
It is 4.5 hours from where I'm at.
Right,
4.5, 5 hours.
Jurgen has an entire country within a 6-hour drive, and just to get from one end of your state to the other is 4.5, 5 hours.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the problem. One of the problems we face in the U.S. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No, don't be. And obviously, I was there to see Voivod, one of my all-time favorite bands. This was on the Nothing Face tour, and I couldn't believe I was going to see Voivod. To be, after all those years of worshiping them, going to see Voivod. And this is a very strange bill for Voivod to be on. Faith No More was opening, Soundgarden was the middle guy, and Voivod was the headliner. Faith No More, they had hits on MTV. It was fine. It was good. I wanted to see Voivod. Soundgarden came out, and I'll be honest, they blew everybody off the stage. I hate to say that because Voivod were still great, but Soundgarden were just on fire. They sounded huge, full of aggression. The crowd was packed to see Soundgarden. And as soon as Soundgarden left, so did all the people. There was probably 15 people watching Voivod, which is a goddamn shame because they were so good. They were so good. It just, you could tell the life was kind of sucked out of them a little bit. They maybe weren't as they sounded great, but there wasn't much going on stage. I could tell they were probably a little disappointed at the way it went. But they'll always remember this day. My first show in the big city, in a dirty, dungy little teeny theater, poorly maintained, shitty. Looks like someone was murdered in the bathroom. Maybe they were. I don't know, but
probably so.
Yeah. The 1990. I was looking through my ticket stubs. Is when I started to. When I was down here, I picked up a couple Metro Times. I picked up the Metro Times and another entertainment paper, and was shocked at all the metal shows that were coming through Detroit. Shocked. Like, where has this been all my life? Well, why am I just now getting down here a year after I graduated high school? But that's where I started. That was my jumping off point when it comes to this.
Very cool. That's a great first concert.
Yeah. Jurgen, you're back.
I think another difference is the club scene. Our clubs are in safe places. Our clubs are mostly very clean. And we've got music clubs in almost every city.
Amazing.
Yeah, that is maybe another difference. I heard stories from German bands playing in the US, and sometimes not sometimes, very often you play in shitholes. And you get treated very badly. That's the stories I hear. They don't get food. They don't get drinks. They have to pay for themselves. They don't get in Europe. It's called buyout. So you get at least some money to get some food. That's not very common in the US.
No. Like some people here, we're talking about Detroit. They're talking about Harpo's, which is a huge venue down in Detroit. It's off the Harper Highway. It is a terrifyingly scary location. I've been there times where there's buildings across the street that are burned out. They look like Beirut film roll from the news or something.
Yeah.
And there was guys and bands that were murdered in the back parking lot because they were getting carjacked. But when you're in there, the venue is really cool. The sound is usually quite subject, but little bands that are coming in there to open up for the big bands, it's all pay to play. That's how a lot of the shit in Michigan kind of works. Some of these venues are pay to play. My band opened up for Terrorizer and Nile before the pandemic. We had to pay $700 to play that show. I said, we'll make it back in merch. Everybody was saving their money for the headliner shirts. They weren't buying our shirts. We sold a couple, but nothing. It's like never again. But I think the differences between, like you were stating, you're not getting food. We didn't even get a sound check. We turned on our amps. The sound guy said, okay, go. That was our sound check. I'm like, okay, here we go. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No problem. Harpo's is a pretty famous club. Even I've heard about it.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
If I'm correct, there's a couple of live albums recorded there. Not basically metal bands, but I can think of a band, but I've read Harpo's on a couple of classic rock live albums.
There's another, that, and there's another venue that's much smaller, much dingier back in the day called Blondie's, where all the real extreme bands came through. And I know there's like a compilation that Creator put out with a picture of Blondie's in the liner notes. I mean, they came through with Voivod, I think, back in the day, and I've seen live footage of it on YouTube, and they just destroyed. People were going absolutely nuts. Small club, people were freaking out. It was amazing. I wish I was at that place, but anyway, again, I interrupted. I'm sorry.
So I have no ticket for that, but my first concert, I was 13 years old. That was back in 1988. That was Creator with Raven on the Extreme Aggressions tour. And shortly after that, Sodom and Sepultura came to town. That was my second show. But my first real death metal show was that one.
Right on.
Back in 1990, cool. August. That was Obituary, Morgoth, and Demolition Hammer supporting.
Wow.
I was 15 back then. And I got on everybody's nerves. I still have all my autographs on it. There's James Murphy and all of the other guys. And can you remember Trevor Perez red PC Rich Warlock guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. He
had that on all the very, very old live photos.
Yeah.
I said, "Can you sign that?" And he handed me over the guitar. There, hold that one. I was 15, and it was like,
awesome.
That was a nice memory. So yeah, first shows. Everybody said heavy metal shows are dangerous, but as we all well know, it's not very dangerous to go to a metal show. I think it's more dangerous to go to a hip hop festival, as we've seen of lately.
Right.
So these were
a Brass Against show where people get randomly peed on.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
Yep.
So these are.
She really had to go pee. Anyway.
Yeah, these were my first concert experiences.
Awesome.
I had a good friend, and he had an older brother. He had a car, so we were basically able to go everywhere since we started listening to metal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You're at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And my parents supported it.
That's cool. Yeah, mine were a little apprehensive. I mean, we lived up here in the north, and you hear all the stories about Detroit, and I was graduated high school. They weren't going to tell me no, but they were like, "You sure you want to go to this?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm going. See Voivod." Okay, Alan.
Let's see, everybody, starting with first concerts. Mine's much less glamorous than any of that. There was they weren't a local band, but they were sort of a regional band that played around parts of Virginia and North Carolina in the late 80s and early 90s, called Sleepy Hollow. They didn't go anywhere. They never released an album or anything like that. They played a lot of hair metal kind of stuff. They covered stuff like Motley Crue and Mr. Big, and had some original songs. But one of the band members, his sister, worked in the little town I grew up in. And when I say little town, we're talking a population of about 2,000 people. There were 2 stoplights in town. And I remember the second one getting put in, and everybody was like freaking out that there was a second stoplight in town when I was growing up. So, very, very small. But anyway, his sister kind of, got, her brother helped arrange for them to play at a local VFW hall, which is, Veterans of Foreign Wars. I don't know if you're familiar with Jurgen, but it's just sort of an organization they have. They tend to do like a lot of community work and stuff, and they have like their own little buildings and stuff around the country in different towns. And so they managed to get, Sleepy Hollow to come play in our little town while I was in high school. And I remember kids talking about it, all week at school. And like some folks were very excited and some were very nervous. We didn't really know much about this band. They didn't get played on the radio. Nobody had really heard them before. We just knew that there's actually a band playing in town. And again, that sounds like such a simple thing, but it was a little hard for us to wrap our brains around it because no bands played in our town. Where we grew up, what music scene there was, it was all like bluegrass and country music, but there were no bars, there were no clubs to play or anything like that. They would sometimes, if there were random like flea markets or, outdoor swap meets, you'd have guys show up, with some banjos and a jug and play music in the background. And I'm quite serious. That's, how stuff was done. But, so yeah, like a lot of, there was a lot of chatter about this Sleepy Hollow show in high school all week. And, I talked to my folks, and my folks were pretty supportive about the stuff. They're like, yeah, okay, you can go and check it out.
Other than your sister going to see Def Leppard.
My folks were a little weird. That was a very different thing because a much bigger show. She would have been going with like, friends and their parents who my folks knew them, but I don't know if they would have trusted them in that kind of situation, so to speak. And they definitely were a little more strict with her about that kind of thing than they were with me, which wasn't fair, and I didn't really realize it as much at the time. But yeah, they weren't as worried about what I listened to. They were more concerned with what she listened to. But she was, she was the baby in the family, so that's what it was. But anyway, so yeah, I went to the Sleepy Hollow concert, and there were maybe 30 kids had shown up. From a high school of about 300, because we had one, and that was the entire high school population of the whole county, 300 kids. And about 30 of us showed up. It was like just enough to kind of form like one line in front of the stage. Yeah, and it was just very hilarious. They had, for a crowd of 30 16-year-olds, they had 2 police cars out front with officers kind of milling around the back of the hall. They had an ambulance on hand with like a full EMT staff. And you could tell it was just like, what do you think we're going to do? There's this band we've never heard of. She just plays, around the region. And yeah, apparently they were ready to call in the National Guard, thinking we were going to burn the town to the ground or something. I remember the band played one faster song. I have no idea what it was now. It was probably like a Motley Crue cover. And so, yeah, kids were banging their heads and stuff, to it, having fun because hey, there's actually something happening for kids to do in our town, which was unheard of. And I remember after the show, one of the MTs, literally walks up on the stage and was whispering to one of the guys, and then walks off and he's like, okay, they're telling us we need to play a little slower because they're concerned you kids are going to hurt your necks. So they played a cover of was it "To Be With You" by Mr. Big, and they played it just super slow acoustic. And so all the kids, of course, we were hamming it up. So we're just swaying back and forth, holding hands, pretending to sing "Kumbaya" and stuff. So it was there was nothing big or fancy about it at all. No crazy stuff happened whatsoever, but it was a lot of fun. It was the only time something like that ever happened in our little town. I bought a T-shirt. The band did have their own T-shirts, and I did buy one from them afterwards. It was $10 and just had their logo on it. I still have it. I could not dig it out tonight. It's buried in a Foot Locker up in the attic, I think. But yeah, that was my first chance getting to see what nowadays we wouldn't even consider a heavy metal band, but at the time it counted. God damn it, it counted. And all 30 of us that were there, were just it wasn't that we were raging yeah, this is awesome. It's just it's so cool that there's something going on for us to see and to do. Can't stress how much there weren't places for kids to go and see or do anything like that. So getting to see a live band, there that night, even if it was, just Mr. Big coverings and stuff, it was still something, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, not exactly Voivod and Harpos. I'm kind of starting out very small here, and might have to build up to that.
All right. Well, a month after my Voivod excursion in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is only about 2 hours south of here, Ministry and KMFDM came through, and we went to that. It was a great show. Loudest show I've ever been to, utterly painful. But later in the year, August 11th, 1990, I went to the first ever Michigan Death Fest in Jackson, Michigan, which is just north, I believe, of Detroit or northeast of Detroit. Sacrifice from Canada was playing, and I'm a huge thrash guy from back in the day. I had to see Sacrifice. Couldn't believe I was going to see Sacrifice. Forward Termination, still a huge album for me. But they were there on Soldiers of Misfortune, which I had not heard that yet. But so I went down to the show, not knowing any of the other bands playing. I got to see Lucifer's Hammer, Deceased. First time I ever saw Deceased.
Oh, cool.
Who else is on there? Baphomet from Buffalo, New York. Nuclear Death from Arizona, and Sacrifice, who were great, although they played past their allotted time and got their sound cut off. They were playing those epic tracks off of Soldiers of Misfortune and got shut down. And then during the Altars of Madness era, it was Morbid Angel came out and blew my stupid little mind right out of my butthole. They were in a hockey arena, and they used so much smoke. It completely filled the whole hockey arena. You could see the spotlight on David Vincent out front. You couldn't see the rest of the band, and two little upside-down cross monuments, like funeral or cemetery monuments next to him. It was just tight as hell, awesome. Stories from that, it wasn't very well attended. It was a huge hockey arena, and it was maybe not even a quarter full. But it was great. The sound was pretty damn decent, and Lori Bravo from Nuclear Death, just a little lady with a humongous Flying V bass, held up a cup of blood and had maxi pads in it. She's like, "Women bleed," and was like throwing them out into the crowd, and people were jumping up trying to catch the maxi pads. I'm like, really, guys? Really? But yeah, it was a revolution. A revolutionary shift for me. I mean, I think my transition into death metal from thrash was kind of happening about the same time it was transitioning. You know, it was in going to that one concert. Yeah, I love Sacrifice, but they weren't the best band on the bill that day. You know, I was very surprised by that. And I hadn't even heard Soldiers of Misfortune at that point, so a lot of that new stuff, I was like, I just want to hear Torment and Fire shit and Total Determination stuff. But after that, me and my buddy Scott were really diving into the earache bands and, you know, really trying to rapidly eat that stuff up. But the big thing about that show, I know I'm prattling on here. Deathfest fans, church group argue. This was at that show. It was the Deathfest. This was a Metro. I don't know if this is Detroit. Yeah, this is off the Detroit News. The show made the Detroit News because this church group came to protest the show. And there was a lot of them. I remember walking through the crowd to get to the venue, and they're like handing me, "Oh, here's some flyers, brother. Enjoy the show." And I grabbed it, and it said, instead of Mega Death, it said Mega Life. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And open it up. They're like chick tracks, you know, like religious stuff, which is whatever. But it got heated, man. I mean, these guys, they had a giant cross. They had this megaphone. They were singing and saying, "Jesus loves you." And of course, these guys are all going like, "Fuck you, Satan, Satan, Satan." You know, and these guys kept coming closer and closer. The cops got called. The cops came and sided with us heathens and told these guys to get the hell out of there. Kept them away because they were afraid there was going to be a riot. The funny thing is, even up here in Little Traverse City, Michigan, hours away. Is this the right side? Oh. Christians rally at rock concert. This was the show, my third show ever. It even made our local newspaper. Absolutely. We're here to promote the gospel of Jesus Christ. We're not here to protest. We're here to give them an opposite viewpoint of death, which is life. There was almost a riot at this stand. If the cops weren't there, there would have been a ruckus. And it was, again, this is my third ever show. I'm standing there like, what the fuck is going on? Am I going to die? I just want to see Sacrifice. I don't give a fuck what these people are into. But anyway, that's my long prattling on. Jurgen, you're back.
Jurgen, does that kind of stuff happen at shows or festivals in Germany? Because it is a very regular occurrence here to have church groups and religious groups, you know, protest and picket at shows. Does that happen in Germany, or is it completely unheard of?
That happens, but on really rare occasions. Okay. I can remember Black Sabbath coming to my hometown back then, and there were Christians protesting against that, but nothing serious happened. The concert it was all right. You don't have that in Germany. What we have is a lot of Antifa. They are a little bit too sensitive over here. Like a band, let me think about an example. Impaled Nazarene, who just they are just a bunch of drunk idiots.
They are
singing about a total war.
Yeah.
And they were banned for years in Germany.
Wow.
So that happens a lot. So it's more the political side that gets upset about certain shows.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going all over the place. You talked about Morbid Angel. One thing I remember is we were playing with Morbid Angel on the Formula's Fatal to the Flesh tour. And the first show we did, Trey was standing right on the side of the stage and watched us play a couple of songs. I looked over to him and he did like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
So let's talk a little bit about shows I played.
Mm-hmm.
First show I did is 30 years and 1 month ago. It was in October 1991. That was just a little band. We had about maybe 200 people showing up. We played cover songs, and we were a bunch of unexperienced 15 years old. So we developed from that, and the first a small tour we played as a band was with Vader.
Nice.
Cool.
So we did 4 shows. Damn it! We did 4 shows in Germany. We organized it ourselves, and that was quite funny. We communicated with Vader in English, and on the last after show party, we were talking to Peter from Vader, and he said, "Oh, we could have done this all in German." And we, what? I understand every word you say, so it's no problem. And he said that in German. So okay.
Bummer.
That was a fun tour. I got along with the old Vader lineup really well. The old bass player Shambo is a good friend of mine. I used to do a lot of pot smoking with the old drummer Doc.
Doc, yeah.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
So yeah, I'm not a drug addict. I smoke from time to time. So, but he had a serious problem.
He was a beast on the hit, though. Holy shit.
Yeah, he died from complications with drug overdose. So he was shooting up heroin back then already. That was, like I said, in 97. And I think 10 years later, he passed away from that.
Wow.
So we met a lot when Vader was touring here in Germany, and you could clearly see his demise. That was a little sad. So I talked to Peter, and he said, "I've got no other chance to get rid of Doc because he's starting to ruin the band. He's my best friend, but I can't do anything about his addiction."
Yeah. That's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay, that's it. I can talk about another tour.
Well, we'll circle back around. We'll circle the wagon back around.
Yeah, okay.
Oh wait, no, it's about your band. Yeah, go ahead. Talk about your band. Another tour.
Oh yeah, just a short story. The second tour we did was with Crisium from Brazil.
Yep.
And this band, you can't read it, but it's Soilwork. You know Soilwork from Sweden? And Solimise. So we played, I don't know, 12 or 15 shows all over Europe.
Wow, nice.
Cool.
And like I said, I'm a pot user, and Crisium are as well. And I said, okay, let's smoke. And they said, you can't keep up with us. But I did. On the second day, I had my nickname for the tour, and it was Hash Maniac.
Nice.
Okay, go on.
You are now. You should have called it Hash Maniac YouTube channel.
Might have attracted a different audience.
Yeah.
Let's see.
We had a getting arrested the getting arrested tour, but I'm going to talk about that later on.
All right.
Good deal. Let's see. I'll get out of the sort of country bumpkin backwoods concerts. Like I mentioned earlier, once I got to college, I was really hopeful that there would be more shows, and there just weren't. Again, is around the time that metal was changing a lot. Grunge was much more popular. So any new bands starting out, college type bands, they were going to either sound like REM who I've never cared for, or they were trying to sound like Nirvana, which was okay, but wasn't hugely interesting to me. So I saw a few small acts here and there in college, but it wasn't until sort of the first real big, name bands I got to see was January of '96, and it was Motorhead. They were actually playing in Toledo, Ohio. This was in support of Sacrifice. And let's see, opening for them was Belladonna, Joey's band after he had left Anthrax. So, my girlfriend, myself, a couple of our friends that liked metal, we got tickets into the show. The timing was real weird. It was one of the first days in January. It was like January 2nd, January 3rd, right after New Year's. And so it was kind of technically still on winter break in between semesters. But it was going to be on a Sunday night, and it was the first day where we could actually get back on campus. So the timing got real weird. That morning ended up, let's see, I didn't have a car at the time. So yeah, my dad drove me from our place in Virginia and dropped me off at my girlfriend's place, which was about an hour south of Cleveland. So again, it was about a 6-hour drive just to get that far. And then she and I drove across the state of Ohio to get to meet up with our friends, drop stuff off on campus, and then head another 30 minutes or so up to Toledo, which was the closest city to where we were at. And January in Ohio, of course, everything is frozen solid. Is 5 different layers of ice covering everything. But we got to the place just fine. It was a small but pretty nice club type setting, bigger than we thought it was going to be. There were a few hundred people there, not a gigantic crowd, but it wasn't tiny either. The Belladonna band was okay. It was kind of cool to see Joey, but the material they did, didn't really interest me a whole lot. There was one other opening band, and I don't remember who it was at the time. It was something in that same vein, that same style of music. So again, it was kind of like, okay, sure, whatever. We sat through it. But Motorhead was, of course, the headliner, and it was the band we had all waited to go see. To be honest, none of us, knew the Motorhead discography really in depth at that point. We knew the classics. I had gotten Sacrifice, really liked it. I thought it was a strong album. And they did a great show. It was insanely loud in this little place. They had it, cranked to full volume. The thing I remember most about it was we kind of we were sitting at a table kind of in the back at first, because again, it was me and Matt and our girlfriends. At one point, finally, Matt's like, I'm just gonna get up and kind of go closer to the stage, and his girlfriend's like, go ahead, I'm staying right here. And a couple of songs later, I'm just like, I'm just going to get up and kind of go closer to the stage too. So we just and my girlfriend's like, go ahead, I'm staying here with Christina. So we both kind of gradually kind of kept drifting further and further up in the crowd to check everything out. But the one track I remember in particular, I was really hoping they would play Burner off the Bastards album, because it's my favorite song by them at the time. And sure enough, they did. And so I just completely lost it and went nuts for a few minutes in the crowd while they played Burner. But really good show, extremely loud. It was the first chance to see a bigger band play. It's the only time I got to see Motorhead. Never caught them again. That was my first chance to check out a bigger band, and it was definitely a fun time. But the kind of epilogue to that was when I got back to campus that night. It was like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning or something. My roommate was still awake. He's just like, call your parents. I'm like, why? Is something wrong? He's just like, they've been calling incessantly, wondering if you got back to campus. Apparently, I was supposed to have called them just to let them know that we got across the state of Ohio without dying in an icy tomb. But again, we were on a really tight time schedule and excited about the concert, so I completely forgot to call them. And apparently they'd been driving my roommate nuts, calling you, have you seen him? He's like, no, I haven't seen him. He wasn't here when I got back. Oh my God, he's frozen to death in the middle of Columbus or something. So I got an earful on the phone at like 1:30 in the middle of the night, just like, folks, we're fine. If there'd been a problem, we would have called and told you. No news is good news. They're like, bullshit. Yeah, got in just a little trouble there for not checking in before the concert. All right, Marty, back over to you.
Carl, I don't know where you're. This is one. Went to see Death, Pestilence, Carcass. Traveled 5 hours with like 10 dudes. Show was canceled, so we all dropped acid at the hotel. Holy moly, what a crazy night. Are you in Michigan? Because one of my trade papers has this here. I heard one of the bands canceled. I don't know if it was Carcass or Pestilence. They were having vehicle problems or something. I don't know if the whole show was canceled, but look what was happening not too the week after. Violence and Defiance. This was Michigan, Southern Michigan back in the day. And like I said, man, when my eyes were opened up to what was going on down there, I really regretted missing it. But getting on to a week after my Michigan Death Fest thing was Death Angel. My ticket stub says Death Angel, Forbidden, and Sacrifice. And when I got there, it was Death Angel, Forbidden, and Realm.
Oh.
It was in the Capitol Theater in Flint, which is a beautiful theater in a very crappy town. In fact, me and my buddy got there early. We're sitting out in front of the venue on the sidewalk, and the same car of gangbangers would come by, slow down, look at us, and then speed off. And then they'd make like 4 trips around staring at us. And we're like staring at them. And they go by. I'm like, well, this is weird. We get into the venue, and Death Angel's up there, and Mark, the singer's like, you guys are crazy. We hear there was a drive-by here last week. I looked at my friend Scott. I'm like, what did he say? What did he just say? He's like, oh, we'll be fine. Well, we were fine. But what a show. Realm, I'd never heard until much later. They're really great. Death Angel. Who was the headliner? I think it was Death Angel. Forbidden. Twisted into Form. The first 2 Forbidden albums are mind-blowing for me. Twisted into Form is mind-blowing. And they sounded absolutely perfect live. Absolutely perfect. Russ's vocals were soaring and amazing. The guitar work was spot on. And Death Angel was on Act 3 at that time, so they played a couple of their funkier cuts off that album. Even though I do like that album, I don't care for the funk stuff on there much. But it was a great show. Absolutely great show. And I know all things are cyclical in metal. I mean, things come swinging back around. What's old is new again at some point. But I was really bummed when thrash kind of petered out. You know, I was bummed about it. I like death metal. I was all in on that as well. But I mean, I grew up, you know, my high school years were all about thrash and all the bands I could find. And it just had a lot more soul to it, I think, than, you know, death metal's got a lot of soul too, but the thrash shits were all it all came from. And for me, and I was bummed to see that whole era go. And, you know, going on here in my musical concert going journey, it starts to shift to more festivals and death metal and stuff like that, but which we'll get into. But I think that that Realm, Forbidden, Death Angel show was a good send off. It was a good send off for that era for me, and I was glad I got to be there and see it. And the theater was beautiful theater. Wasn't a lot of people there. I don't know what happened. I have friends that live in Detroit area. They say that, you know, back in the day there were hundreds of people at these shows going crazy. And then, you know, years ago, late 90s or early 2000s, Vader would be playing in Detroit. My friend would go to it and there'd be 30 people at the show. He's like, where'd all the people go? Where did they go? Did they move? Did they grow out of it? You know, what's the deal? I mean, I don't know how that works, but
they were all shot in drive-bys, apparently.
Yeah, times change. You know, we just got to roll with it.
Yeah,
I think that is that has something to do with something I said earlier, following trends.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the point why the metal scene was decaying.
Yep.
Not here in Germany, but in the US.
Mm-hmm. No,
I think
it's a good point, Jurgen. Just a very quick example. I saw. It's not a story I'll go into in detail, but I saw Dio live in '96, maybe '97, and I doubt there were 200 people in the place.
Mm-hmm.
If that had been 10 years earlier, he could have played a stadium, at least a small stadium. And yeah, this one, they sold, probably 200 tickets, maybe, if that. So yeah, it's same guys, same songs, but yeah, the scene was completely different, within that time frame. Here in the U.S., those guys weren't drawing at all for a long time.
All right.
So, Alan, you talked about Motorhead. How many people were there?
I would estimate definitely less than 300.
Okay.
The place would have held 300. So let's call it 200.
Yeah, and the stories from Lemmy, who didn't even play in Great Britain back then. He didn't want to because nobody was showing up, and so was the US or anywhere else in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he always said Germany kept Motorhead alive.
Right.
So that is a concert I went to.
Oh, cool.
That was in 1991. And Neumarkt, or translated it says New Market. That is the town I lived for 30 years. So that was my hometown. I've got a vinyl LP of that show.
Mm.
And I've got the ticket in it.
Mm-hmm.
And since that, my hearing is fucked.
Yeah.
Because I was standing in the front row on the left side, right in front of the speakers.
Yep.
That just came to my mind when you were talking about Motorhead.
Yeah, they're still one of the loudest bands I've ever seen or heard play.
Yeah.
Ministry was louder, and Manowar was louder. Anyway,
Manowar was not louder when I saw them, but we'll probably get to that story later.
They were in the same venue I saw Voivod, and they were like arena loud. I mean, I was standing there in the middle. There was hardly anybody there watching them, and the kick drum is. I'm like standing there with a funny look on my face. My buddy Lance is in front of me. He turns around. He's like, "Does it feel like you're getting kicked in the balls every time that bass drum hits?" And I'm like, "That's what it is." Because my testicles would like jump every time the fucking Scott Columbus hit the kick drum. They were so fucking loud. It was stupid. They're in this little tiny theater playing like they're in fucking Berlin in an outdoor festival or something. I don't know. It was insane. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Jurgen.
It's no problem.
Balls to the wall metal.
Balls to the wall. Yep.
And talking about one of the loudest shows I've been to, surprisingly, it was that one. It was Blind Guardian on their tour in 1995. And they had Nevermore supporting.
Mm-hmm.
Good show.
That was on Nevermore's first album. And remember, Warrell Dane had really, really, really long hair back then. And he was headbanging on stage, and he swallowed his hair. So he puked all over the fucking place. But he was brave enough to do the show. And a couple of minutes after the show, I actually met him, and he had his dress on with puke everywhere. So he signed my ticket.
Yep.
That is ink he signed in, right? Not something else.
Okay, that's it.
All right, Alan.
Okay. I can attest to everything Marty said about St. Andrews Hall earlier, because I did end up seeing shows there later on too. The big one for me, most fun show I've ever been to. Also, easily the most violent. Jurgen, you mentioned earlier that generally you can go to metal shows and feel pretty safe. This one nobody felt safe at. It was the first time I saw Misfits play, and this was spring of '96. So it was when they had sort of reformed with Michael Graves and Dr. Chud. The box set had come out the previous fall and had obviously done very well. And they had started working on new material, but let's see, American Psycho didn't come out for another year. So this was, about a year before American Psycho's release. But this was their first reunion tour. It was the first time Misfits had played out and about since breaking up with Glenn, back in the early 80s. And, my buddy Matt and I were, rabid Misfits fans. He had gotten me into the band, in college, and I, went nuts for them. And so, yeah, the chance to see them play live, too good to resist. Matt had grown up, around the Detroit area. He had gone to shows at places like Harpo's and, St. Andrews Hall back in the 80s. For example, he went to there's sort of a semi-famous live footage of John Arch era Fates Warning playing in Detroit. I'm pretty sure it's in Detroit in 1986. And it's actually kind of infamous because it's not a really good show. Arch has even commented that, it was not one of their better performances. And Matt was at that show, and saw them. He never liked the band because he always remembered them sounding kind of crappy live. But anyway, so, he knew he'd gotten his car broken into, I think, when he went to a show at Harpo's, and they stole his copy of the Beware EP out of the back seat. Don't ask me why he was driving around with a vinyl copy of Beware in his back seat. But anyway, so yeah, we decided, we had to go see, Misfits. It was happening a day or two after the spring semester ended. So I had to pack all my stuff up, move off campus, and kind of move into like Matt's, he had a spare bedroom at the house he was renting. And so, I just kind of piled all my stuff, into the back room and stayed there, for a couple of nights to be able to go see the show. So we drive up that afternoon. Is a couple hours drive from, where we were at in northern Ohio. Met up with some, friends. His girlfriend was going with us. My girlfriend did not go with us. Yeah, she did not go to this particular show. And, of course, Matt had, been, kind of warning me all along to say, okay, look, this isn't going to be like the Motorhead show. It had gotten moved last minute. I forget the original venue, but it got moved to St. Andrews Hall literally like a few days, maybe a week before the concert. Yeah, and Matt had been warning me, like, look, this is going to get a little dicey probably. Detroit was Misfits' sort of adopted home. It was one of the real hotbeds for Misfits fandom over the years. And so, he'd been telling me this, like, don't look at anybody. Don't talk to anybody. For God's sake, whatever you do, don't talk to anybody. I still had a bit of a heavier Southern accent at the time. It's like, if you talk to anybody, they're going to immediately beat the shit out of you because you sound like a redneck. No offense, but you sound funny, and they don't like that up here. So it's like, okay, check. Don't look at anything. Don't say anything. Don't do anything. Yeah, this is going to be great. So we get to the place, and yes, the very heavy security, huge crowd. Everyone in the crowd is just the energy was really one of those things where it's just electric in the air. Everybody is just literally about to come unglued at the thought of finally getting to see Misfits again. Matt, breezes right through the door. Girlfriend breezes right through the door. The other folks we're with breeze right through the door. I'm the one they picked to stop and pat down for like 5 or 10 minutes looking for shit. And it's just like, I don't have nothing at all. So they finally just like, okay, yeah, go on through. And you go in, it's just, you've been there, Marty. Yeah, it's just, sort of a big open floor, with balconies up above. And so, I'm wondering, and the place is already packed.
Wow.
Several hundred people. And it's just like, wonder where the hell everybody went. I guess I mill around and hope I bump into them, which I didn't. There was some opening band. I forgot to look up and see who it was. I don't remember. Nobody cared. They played. Nobody was paying a lick of attention to them. Everybody was there for one reason only. By the time they got ready to start with Misfits, I was kind of roughly very much in the center of the room. Matt said, don't get too close to the front. They will beat the shit out of you. Don't stand next to a door. Someone will beat the shit out of you and throw you out the door. As is like, okay, I'm just going to stay here in the middle of the room. It's been like 45 minutes. I have not seen any sign of any of the people I came to the show with. They drop the lights, they get things set up. They have the big prop coffins set up where the band can come through the back of the coffins, kind of kick the lids open. They go straight into playing Halloween, and that whole fucking building loses its mind. Everyone just completely goes apeshit. There is no play. It's not that there's a little bit of a pit in the front or anything like that. The whole building is one pit. That's all there is to it. It's just like, okay, here we go. The band they reeled off like 5 or 6 songs in a row. Didn't introduce themselves, didn't stop, didn't break. It was just get to the end of Halloween. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next song. Didn't announce what it was, but I mean everybody knew every song by heart. You knew what it was as soon as they played the first couple of chords. I remember they sounded great, they looked great, and I ended up back to back with some short little redneck dude and literally the red flannel shirt with the sleeves torn out. And we're both just, literally throwing elbows, keeping people off of us. And it's just like, I don't know who he was. We didn't say a word, but it was, very clear. It's just like, I am going to make sure nobody comes at us from this direction. You're going to make sure nobody comes at us from that direction. We're going to have this one tiny little bubble right here where nobody's going to fuck with us unless we just get trampled to death. And it just goes on that way. They finally, the band finally, takes a very quick break and say, hey, how are you doing? It's great to be back in Detroit. Okay, let's play more. They played for like 2.5 hours. They played almost every fucking song they had ever written.
That's a lot of songs.
It's a lot of songs. I think everything they were legally allowed to play that Glenn didn't have all the rights to, they played. They played a couple of early versions of some new songs that would end up on the American Psycho album a year later, and the place was just batshit crazy. You had kids climbing the PA speakers and diving off them. You had St. Andrews Hall has sort of like a second floor balcony. You had kids trying to climb up into the second floor balcony or hanging off the balcony and just dropping down onto the main floor. So it's like, okay, yeah, stay in the middle because over there people are getting squashed. Gradually over time, I had drifted a little further back and a little further back. You had giant contingent of skinheads with the red suspenders just screaming "Sieg Heil, Sieg Heil" after every song.
Big in Harpo's. They would always get let into Harpo's too.
Yep. So that was happening off to one side. When I got towards the back of the crowd, it was saying there's this little area opened up. It's like, okay, what the fuck's happening over there? And you had, one of these assholes wanting to do all these spin kicks. He hadn't hit anybody that I saw, but, he was just kept doing, these jump kicks and spin kicks, looking to, knock somebody out flat. And, I watched it. One of the bouncers came over, and the guy sees the bouncer coming. So, he's going to, go, full Karate Kid on him here. And the bouncer times it perfectly where he ducks under the kid's foot. And as he's coming back up, he reaches out, grabs the kid by the neck, and choke slams him onto the concrete floor. Kneels on the kid's chest, and I hear him just yelling, just like, "Don't you fucking move!" And it takes literally less than 2 seconds. There's 4 other bouncers show up. They each grab an arm or a leg. The 4 of them carry the kid to the front of the building, which I can see from where I'm standing at this point. And they literally do the whole 1, 2, and fling the kid out the front door of St. Andrews Hall. It's set back just a little bit from the street, but if he bounced just right, he probably rolled straight into traffic.
Yep.
That's the kind of fucking show it was. Eventually, it's about an hour into the thing, I had kind of wandered a little bit, more over to one corner, and I find Matt and everybody are sitting there at a table. They're like, "Holy shit, you're alive." Matt was honestly, he's I've been sitting here for the last 2 hours wondering how I'm going to tell my dad I got you murdered in Detroit. I'm just like, dude, I'm fine. This is awesome. What are you guys doing sitting over here? So where have you been? I was out there. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? Are you insane? I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Where have you been? When they had gone in the room, they had immediately turned and gone up the stairs and had spent most of the night up in the balcony area, which I had never gone up to. I didn't even see the stairs when I went through finally. And so they had only come downstairs much, much later once the crowd had, they'd been playing for over an hour at this point. Everybody was literally running on fumes. And so they came down, and found sort of, just a little tiny table off in a corner, to plop down at and watch the show. So it's just like, okay, no, I'm fine. You fine? We're good. Okay, I'm going to go back over there and watch more. So, yes, you definitely the most violent show I've been to. Definitely the most fun show I've ever been to. We had to drive back to Ohio in the middle of the night. I remember after the show, some of Matt's old buddies from Detroit, we bumped into each other outside, and they were all going to this abandoned insane asylum right outside of town. It was known as the Tunnels because they had all these underground tunnels connecting the buildings because they didn't want to take like all the schizo patients out from building to building where people would see them. To make it look like a nice, calm facility, they had all these tunnels, so they'd take all the real serious cases underground to go from building to building and stuff. It had been abandoned years ago, and it was, of course, eventually became one of the quote-unquote cool teenage, hangouts where kids would go to shoot up and fuck up and do whatever else. And they were all just like begging, like, Matt, dude, you got to come hang out in the tunnels with us, man. We got all this shit. We got dope. We're going to just, fuck up. We're going to party all fucking night, man. And it's just like, guys, I cannot fucking do that anymore. Like, dude, come on. And it's just for like 30 minutes, Matt's just like really trying nicely to, just like, not part of this scene anymore, guys. We're heading on back down to Ohio tonight. It sounds fun. And I'm just standing there just like, if Matt goes along with this, I have no choice but to go along with this too. He's my ride back. I have no one. I know nobody else here. So I'm just kind of like, I stand there for like 30 minutes just like, am I going to spend the rest of the night in these abandoned tunnels at a psycho ward? Okay, no, I'm not. I'm okay with this. I didn't say a fucking word the whole time because it's just like, hey, this is his negotiation. I do not need to be chiming in here whatsoever. But yes, we did not go to the tunnels. We did drive back to Ohio in the dead of night, and we had a fucking awesome time. I still have I got a shirt that night, and it has this giant crimson ghost skull that glows in the dark, which is really cool, except that it's got that really heavy glow-in-the-dark material. So that thing is a bitch to wear. It's super
nipple
heavy.
sander.
Yeah, it's really uncomfortable to wear, so I hardly ever take it out to wear it. But it does look very cool. So yes, that is my favorite show, and by far my most insane show.
Jason Hook says, Alan, think of the fossils you could have found in those tunnels.
I would be a fossil in those tunnels if we had gone to that fucking place. Yeah, that would have been a little, might have been a bit much. But in some alternate universe, yes, we went there, and I'm probably to this day still like, creeping around in the shadows, eating dead mice, and drinking rainwater or some shit because we never left. But that is my maybe too long story. So Marty, let's move on to you.
Oh, it's me? Oh.
I believe so.
All right. Well, before I start getting into the really good stuff, being up here in northern Michigan, it was strange when any show would come here. In July 5th, 1993, at 7 p.m., a Christian group decided to bring Australia's Mortification to northern Michigan.
Nice.
Which was during their post-monetary affliction era. They're still good at that point. And also the band with Rex Records artist Killed by Cain, who not so good. I was not very impressed with that. But couldn't believe Mortification was coming to northern Michigan at a very sizable theater that was attached to a school. And there were everyone from little kids there. You could tell it was a church group that brought them there. And maybe 10 or so dudes that were metalheads. I showed up in a Dismember shirt. And of course, there was the guy there with the Deicide definition shirt, the destruction of all that was holy. And of course, I'm looking at the guy. I'm like, oh, you're so cool, dude. Badass. But, yeah, interesting to see, Mortification is a 3-piece in my hometown, all the way from Australia. I have no idea if they were touring the States or if they were brought there just for that one show, but weird. Really, really weird that would. I mean, if you guys saw this town, it's not a whole lot. It's beautiful here, but it's not a big, huge city. So I mean, it's really strange. And there wasn't a lot of people there. There was probably more kids there than there were, adults. Maybe not. But like I said, you could tell it was a church group. A couple church groups got together and brought them here. But interesting. Yeah, I'll get back into the super cool stuff here next time around. But
just a question.
Modification. It was cool.
Just a question on that modification show. Was there a rally by Christians to stop the concert? Because it was...
No, they were all for it. They were all for it. And I was too. I was psyched that there was even a show there. I couldn't believe it was. Killed by Cain were not good. I was not impressed by that. It was not good. But,
so there was Satanists standing outside and try to stop the concert.
No, he was in the show wearing his Deicide Definition T-shirt, trying to look like he was mad. He was disgusted to be there, yet he paid to be there. So I mean, they won in the end.
I don't like their lyrics, but these guys can rock.
Yep.
That's as contrarian as you can get, huh?
Yep, totally.
Okay, next up. Overkill in June 2002. Remember, Blitz had a stroke back then?
Yep.
That was at that show.
Holy shit.
Oh.
Yeah. I saw that show. We had Wicked Mystic and Blaze opening. Blaze was great. I don't like Blaze too much in Iron Maiden, but the solo stuff is pretty good, especially the first 2 albums. So Overkill started playing, and they were energetic as ever. And after 4 or 5 songs, Blitz always gets behind the backline when solo's being played. He came. He jumped in front of the microphone and just collapsed.
Whoa. Jeez.
So that was only a short story. I don't tell too much about every show, so I cramp in 2
Oh,
Cool.
go for it.
Absolutely.
1991. Slayer in a small town called Lichtenfels. They announced that was shortly after Decade of Aggression was released, and they were on their high. Is that how you say it?
Yep. Or high point or whatever.
They announced the tour in every magazine, and the shows were sold out immediately. So about 2 weeks before the European tour happened, they added that show, and nobody knew about it. So I saw Slayer playing 2 hours in front of 400 to 500 people, which was awesome.
Nice.
It was really, really awesome. They played their asses off. I didn't expect that. They had Mindfunk supporting them.
Ugh.
Weird.
I know you like it. Was it you that were saying that? Was it you that were showing the Mindfunk albums and liked it, or was it somebody else?
It was somebody else, but I like the second Mindfunk.
I've only heard the first one, and I did not like it. Not good.
The second one is completely different.
Really?
But I think you have to be a pothead to understand the album. So Mindfunk were opening, and the whole crowd was turning their backs to the stage. Not booing them. It was dead silent in the room after each song. They just turned their backs on them.
Huh.
Nothing more. That was quite interesting to see.
You got to have big balls to open for Slayer because you're typically going to get showered with insults, and no one cares about who's before Slayer. They just want to see Slayer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You remember the band Malice in the beginning and their second album, License to Kill?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
On the License to Kill tour, they supported Slayer on the Raining Blood tour here in Germany. I haven't seen that because I was too young, but I heard so many stories.
I can't imagine. That is not a good bill.
That's a tough pairing. Yeah.
It's not.
A year later, Slayer came back with Overkill opening, and that worked out pretty good.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. Yeah. How has Slayer been when y'all have seen them? I remember they've always having kind of a mixed. Folks have very different opinions. That sometimes Slayer is really good live, and other times that they kind of are flat. I've only seen them once, and they were quite good. But
I've never seen them.
Okay, Jurgen, how many times have you seen them?
20 times, something like that.
Are they pretty consistently good each time you've seen them, or is it kind of
no? Usually, Slayer in a mid-sized venue that is packed, they play their asses off. I've seen them on festivals where there was a huge crowd and they were so goddamn boring. And they were just standing on stage. Nobody was headbanging, just standing there, playing their stuff, playing very sloppy. I've seen Slayer in, I think it was 2001, something like that. They played in Munich to a packed crowd with Hatebreed and Slipknot. And Araya lost his voice. You could hear that after 4 or 5 songs. He just stepped back and didn't continue to sing. They played 2 or 3 songs instrumental. They took a short break, and they came back and played Rain in Blood with that Hatebreed guy singing, which I can't stand that guy. Jamie Justa.
His name. That him singing for Slayer makes no sense.
Yeah, and they played Rain in Blood, and Jamie started singing Angel of Death. I think there's a bootleg of that show somewhere. I have to search that out. And the Slayer crowd can get very angry.
Oh yeah.
That was not a nice ending for that show. Even outside in the parking lot. Not really dangerous, but the people got upset and destroyed some stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, comments in the chat. It looks like people have had very, very different experiences with Slayer being really good and Slayer being not so good sometimes.
Yeah, but back then, the first time I saw them in '91, it was perfect. It was, perfect.
Maybe the bigger stage takes a little of the closeness away. And they kind of lose touch with. I mean, they started out as a club band doing covers, didn't they? I mean, a mid-sized venue seems to be a good fit for them, Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I saw. Yeah. That's about the kind of venue I saw them in. So yeah, that would be consistent.
The thing with Araya, I don't know if you know that he's a really, really big pot smoker as well. Yeah.
I did not know that.
What?
I did not know that. No.
Yeah, and I think it depends on what he's doing before the show.
All right.
And you had Jeff, who was
big drinker.
Yeah, functioning alcoholic is that the right word?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and maybe he got a little bit too much on some occasions. When they played the festivals I mentioned, where they were so fucking boring, they played late at night. Maybe that has something to do with it. Just being bored before the show and drinking and smoking. I don't know.
All right, Alan, while you're chatting, I'm going to go use the little boys' room. I'll be right back.
All right. Let's
Talk a lot.
see. I can do that. Let's see. One of the funnier things I ever saw at a show was at a different Misfits concert. I've seen them 4 times, and oddly, I saw them in 4 different states. But it actually didn't have anything to do with the Misfits this time. This was in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. There was a club there for a few years that was getting more like the sort of mid to large heavy acts to stop by. So that was cool. It was a couple hours drive from where I was living at the time, but yeah, I would go over and catch anybody that interested me. And Misfits was playing, so I was going to go check them out. But I was really excited because Murphy's Law was opening for them, and I'd never gotten to see them live before. I was a little familiar with their stuff. Murphy's Law is one of those bands that definitely is better in a live setting than on record. On record, their stuff is okay, but they've always had a really good live reputation. So I wanted to check them out. So I was really happy they were the opener. So this was a case where, I definitely wanted to see the opening act as well as the main act. It ended up being one of the first shows after Graves and Dr. Chud had kind of walked out on the band. So it wasn't a particularly good Misfits show. Jerry was having to sing, and I do not like Jerry singing for the Misfits. It does not work for me. So the Misfits set, they got through it. It was okay, but yeah, Murphy's Law was really, the fun thing to see that night. And they were really great live, great energy, great sound. But the thing that stood out that was just really hilarious, they're playing along, doing fine. And apparently I wasn't close enough to the front of the stage to see and hear the entire exchange, but I guess there's somebody right up, front and center who was like a straight edge kid who was kind of heckling the band, giving them a hard time for, singing about, drinking and smoking and all this stuff. Yeah. And just, being sort of, a straight edge dick about things. And so, the lead singer starts, giving him a hard time about it, starts, getting on, kind of getting back on his case. At one point, they had literally, brought a beer up, for the lead singer. So, he's finishing the song, he's got his beer there. And, this straight edge kid is still kind of running his mouth at him. And, the singer just, starts really hamming up. He's just like, I don't get it, man. Like, what's your problem with beer, man? It's like, there's no meat in beer. It's not bad for your vegan pussy ass, blah, blah, blah. It's like, there's no animal died to make this beer. What, you don't believe me? Let me show you. And he takes the beer and just pours it on top of the kid. And he's just like standing there drenched. He's like, fuck you. And they start playing another song. The kid shut up and left after that. He really didn't run his mouth anymore. But yeah, it was just funny because he just, really, wound up. It's just like, there's no meat in beer. We didn't, make any weird chemicals or preservatives. It's just fucking beer. You don't believe me? And right on top of them.
Who was this? What band? I missed it.
Murphy's Law. They were opening for Misfits one night, right after Graves had left the band. So, I got to see them both, and it was just one of those hilarious moments that you couldn't script. But yeah, Murphy's Law has always had a good reputation. They're they're a veteran hardcore act. You think they're going to take shit from one straight edge kid standing there whining about them, singing songs about beer? That's not going to fly. Just not going to fly. All right, Marty, you have returned, so that means I have talked enough. What's your next one?
Well, I'm skipping around a lot, but probably one of the best concerts I've ever seen was in '95 when Dissection, At the Gates, and Morbid Angel tour came through Harpo's in Detroit. I just started doing, me and some friends started doing Worm Gear Zine at that year, so I felt like I was totally immersed in the the zine culture, and I was really blown away by Dissection and At the Gates, and Morbid Angel was on Domination tour at that point. Place was packed. Dissection, I think, played for maybe 20 minutes, and they sounded amazing, absolutely amazing. At the Gates, like we mentioned, Detroit, Harpo's in particular has a skinhead problem, not the good kind, the bad kind. And there was a contingent of them there, Sieg Heiling in between songs, and Thomas from At the Gates was so terrified he almost didn't do the show. He had to be drug out there by other people because he was terrified of the crowd because of all the skinheads there. And of course, David Vincent from Morbid Angels, like, oh, I see my brothers of blood are out in the audience today. And of course, they're like, Seagull, Seagull, Seagull. And it's like, oh, fuck off, man. But all the bands, you know, the sound was really good that night there. The place was packed, other than the dipshits. Amazing show. Never forget it. Yeah. I mean, it was an exciting time for me because I just started doing the zine stuff, was kind of getting out there and reaching out from my little part of the world that I grew up in, very sheltered area, actually putting my thoughts and ideas on paper and getting them out to a wider audience. It felt like a big deal to me at the time, and it was just an exciting time. And actually being able to see bands that I really love their albums, you know, it was a pretty cool experience. And yeah, it was a great tour. Very memorable tour.
Very cool.
There again.
You talked about dissection.
Yep.
Back then, they had a great sense of humor. That was before
MLO
before John
lost his mind.
Decided to lose his mind. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I saw them playing with Gorgoroth and Satyricon opening up, and both of these bands had the Corpse Paint and everything.
Yep.
And Dissection was playing last, and they thought we can go on without makeup. So they took a bunch of Sharpies and drew upside down crosses and pentagrams on their cheeks and stuff. That was quite hilarious. So
That's funny.
You reminded me of that one.
Yeah, that's funny.
Okay, let's talk about some tours I did without playing. For some time, I did merchandise for different bands. I was a freelancer. That's the right word?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they hired me to do this tour.
Oh, man.
That was a Masters of Death with the big four of
Oh, my God.
the Swedish death metal. And it was so much fun.
You were not sober ever.
No,
During that entire tour.
I just started drinking after the show because I had to deal with a lot of money.
Right.
Really a lot of money.
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah.
And I had to do the calculation after the bus left.
Yep.
So I saw quite a couple of shows of that one. I did the whole tour. I was traveling with Unleashed and Entombed. And I really became close friends with LG. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
And
Cheers.
yeah. Rest in peace. Cheers.
Rest in peace.
Up until now, LG owes me at least 10 packages of cigarettes. he's a chain smoker as I am, and he 12 times a day he was coming. Hey, you've got a cigarette for me?
Yes.
Shortly before that tour happened, I did merchandise for Necrophobic.
Ah.
Awesome.
On their, what's that album called? Rimtsumtsum.
Oh, the one that starts with an H? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Also, quite a lot of shows, and that was the Getting Arrested tour.
Oh no, we got to hear about this.
Here we go.
I became close friends with their singer Tobbe before he went insane as well.
Yeah,
So,
he lost his fucking mind too.
yeah, he did. He, as I am, he's a loner, and he doesn't like huge crowds, and he concentrates on one single person, as I tend to do when I'm on the road with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
we had a day off in Stuttgart in Germany, and there's something like Oktoberfest in Stuttgart, and the whole tour crew want to get to that beer fest. Tobbe and I decided not to go, so we went straight to the city of Stuttgart. It was during the week, and we said, okay, let's get drunk out in the city. So we went into a bar and started drinking Jägermeister and stuff like that, and we were hammered. They threw us out. We ended up in a country bar, and that was karaoke night. So we were drunk, and they handed the list around with the songs you can choose from, and we said, okay, let's do it. We both pretended, at least I pretended I was from Sweden as well. So we took part. He chose to sing I'm 18, and I choose to sing Master of Puppets. So in the end, he made the second place, and I was a third. And the prize was 50 euros for the second place, drinking bongs, and I had 25 euros. So we had 75 euros to spend. We were already drunk. So what are we going to do? We probably never come back to this place. So we have to spend it right now.
Yep.
Oh no.
So we ordered small Jägermeister bottles.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
With only a shot in it. So we decided to buy 75 of them. We placed them on the table and invited everyone. There was a guy coming by just taking one. And I said, hey, come here. We didn't invite you. You have to pay that. He showed me his wallet, put it open, said, I have no money. He had his driver's license in there. So I took his driver's license, put it in my mouth, chewed on it, and swallowed it.
Oh
and I said, okay, listen, that little Jägermeister would cost you just €1. You're going to get a new driver's license now. That will cost you 65 euros. So
oh my God.
fuck off. Then after that, we decided to go to a strip club. And I had a private pole dance. And I was so fucking drunk. Can I tell this on here?
Go ahead.
I just bit the stripper in the tits. They called the police and we were arrested.
Yeah.
A couple of days later, we played in Czech Republic and everybody was driving a big Mercedes. And you know the Mercedes star they have on the car? And you can break them, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I told them, I told Tobbe, every car, every Mercedes here, they can't afford it. It's all stolen. So we decided to break these. The alarm set off by every second car, and we were chased by the police. A couple of days later, we played in. They played in Munich. After that, that was a big club. At least several clubs, and they had a bar. And after the show, we went to the bar drinking. We got outside and saw over there was a strip club, so maybe we can get in there.
Return of the titty biter.
No. Just wait for it. We were standing right in front of the security. And we decided before we go in, we do a puking contest right in front of the security. So he didn't let us in. We were angry, as drunk as we were. Back then, I used to drink a lot of hard liquor. I don't do that anymore. And you know what can happen with hard liquor?
Well,
so we got angry.
Yeah.
We destroyed the cars standing around.
Oh no.
The police came and they arrested us and questioning us if we know something about that. But they had to let us go. A couple of days later, we stayed in the bus and the other guys went out to another beer fest. The Swedish guys got drunk and they decided to take off all their clothes and jump over the tables at the beer fest. They were arrested. So that's why it's called the Getting Arrested Tour.
Oh my God.
A lot of fun memories.
A lot of fun memories, though. Yeah, that's crazy. Amazing.
Oh, man.
Well, thanks for
Unfortunately,
sharing those. I see people laughing
Toby
in
lost
here.
his mind.
Hmm.
Okay, that's it.
Right on. Alan, top that one.
Yeah, I got to follow that. Jeez. Yeah, no shenanigans on that level that I can roll out. With shows, most of the time, yes, I'll go. I'll have a good time. I don't mind, when I was younger, moshing a little bit, but I'm no pit maniac or anything like that. There was one show where, again, the same buddy, Matt, and I did start some trouble. This was in North Carolina, so not a Detroit show, but it was years later. I was living down in Raleigh area, and there was a show, Marduk, of all bands, was playing in North Carolina. So this already doesn't make any sense. And actually, I think they were playing at the same place where I'd seen Murphy's Law. This was probably before seeing Murphy's Law. I think they were on tour for Panzer Division Marduk, if I'm remembering the time frame right. And it just happened.
Fun road trip album, by the way.
Indeed.
Yep. Anyway.
But yeah, the way it worked out, Matt's job at the time had him traveling a lot. And one of the places, that, he was kind of assigned to check in with every so often was one of their offices, which was in the greater, like, Charlotte, Winston-Salem. There's like a triad of cities in that part of North Carolina. And so a lot of times he'd have to fly down to that area, work for a few days. And so he'd always check in with me like, hey, Alan, is there anybody playing, North Carolina? We'll get together and catch a show. And it just so happened this time it was like, well, Marduk's playing, which wasn't really his bag. He's not a big black metal fan, but yeah, hey, it's still a chance to hang out, see a band. So why not? So yeah, sure. What the fuck? We'll go. So I meet up with him, at the place. We ended up going to a few shows there over the years with the same kind of setup. And, so we go in. If there was anybody opening, we either missed it or I have no memory of it whatsoever. But Marduk, is the only band of any note that's on the bill. They come out and start playing. It's a really small crowd, less than 100 people for sure. I don't know how much less, but more than 20, less than 100. And they sound pretty good, and the place is just dead. And it's, looking around, it was a lot of younger folks. Like, this point, I would have been mid-20s. Yeah, mid-upper 20s. And a lot of the crowd looks like, they're like, 19 or something. So there's, it's much younger folks. And they're just standing and looking. And nobody's really getting into it. They're not even throwing up horns or anything. They're all just kind of like standing there. And, but this is, very late 90s, very early 2000s. Again, I'm a little fuzzy on the timeline for this one. But, it definitely was the point where shows had gotten a bit tamer overall. That, unless you were going to see a particular band like Slayer that was, going to have a big, very energetic crowd, folks were definitely getting out of the habit of, going nuts at shows. Security was, much tighter, and fans just, weren't doing that stuff as much. And, watching the band go through a few songs, Matt and I were kind of standing towards the back. And they were playing quite good. And they kept trying, to rev up the crowd a little bit in between songs, like, okay, come on, guys, we've come all the way from Sweden, make some fucking noise. And just, Matt and I just, start, kind of, screaming, hollering, all this stuff, and nobody else is doing anything. And, you can kind of say, the band's, like you mentioned, I think before, Marty, they're looking, kind of a little bummed out, and just nobody's doing anything. And Matt and I are just like, this is very fucking good. And I try to just look at Matt, just like, you want to just start some shit here? And he's just like, yeah, why not? What should we just like? I'm just like, well, here, so we both just, go to the front and we just start pushing, just elbows out, not aiming to clock anybody really hard, but just like, hey, you get the fuck out of the way. And, and him and I just start swinging at each other, not trying to hit each other, but just trying to get something going. And sure enough, after, a couple minutes, someone else comes up and like, pushes me in the chest. I'm like, okay, here, motherfucker, I'll push you right back. And so we finally get like this very small mosh pit going, and looking up at the guys on the stage, you can finally just like, they're finally just like, oh, thank God, somebody's doing something down there. And so they kind of pick up, the energy and stuff. About that time, they break into the song Wolves, which is one of my favorites by them. And so they're just like, now we will play fucking Wolves. And I just like scream at the top of my lungs right up against it. It's just like, Wolves! And as I'm turning around, Matt's already like swinging again. And I'm turning around and he clips me just barely on the side of my head. Doesn't really faze me at all. I go, right back in, duck my head, swing at him. So we get, a good little circle going for a while. Have a lot of fun with it. I head back, in the dead of night. I have to go in and teach the next morning. I was a teaching assistant, so I was doing a lab. And I'm hadn't drunk much since I had to drive. Was sober and all that. But I get to like the office and get stuff to get in like some of the other TAs. I'd only been there less than a year, and some of the other TAs are looking at me and just like, dude, are you okay? I'm just like, yeah, I'm fucking fine. Why? They're just like, okay, man, it's cool. Not trying to start any shit. I'm just like, what the fuck are they talking? Everyone's acting kind of weird. And I went to take a piss before I had to teach. And I look in the mirror and I've got a huge fucking black eye, which it hadn't really registered, but Matt had clipped me just enough that, this one eye was just completely dark. It was like, oh, okay, well, that explains why everyone's a little freaked out. Nothing I can do about it now. So I went and taught, geology lab, with this huge black eye, and all my students were like, what's with our teacher? Is he like, in a fight with a student or something?
First rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club.
I didn't acknowledge it at all. I didn't say a thing. But the students were definitely kind of like, they were much quieter and well behaved that day. And like one of the TAs told me, there's just like, that was like my first impression of you is like, you coming back from this, heavy metal concert the night before, and you're like, you're beat up, but you're absolutely fine. We're just like, what the fuck did he do to the other guys? If he's okay, he must have like beat the shit out of people all night. So like everybody's like giving me like a wide berth for a while after that, thinking that, I was like, some kind of mosh pit hooligan.
It's a wolf thing you wouldn't understand, man.
It's just like, Panzer Division Marduk, motherfuckers. And he's like, yeah, what does that mean? We don't know. So, that's the only time that, really was, responsible for starting any kind of trouble at a show. And so, Marduk, if you're out there, you're welcome. I helped save your performance in that shitty little bar in North Carolina 20-some years ago.
All right.
All right, Marty. Over to you, sir.
Well, 1998 was my first trip to the Milwaukee Metal Fest. I was writing for Worm Gear. Obviously, I think I had started Metal Maniacs at that point. I don't remember, but I was there with a trunk load of probably 3,000 Worm Gear zines that I handed out. Me and my buddy Jason handed out to people, which was quite a task. But visit the Eagles Ballroom, kind of a poopy side of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. Saw Sodom's only U.S. performance there.
Oh, cool.
Which was really cool. And they sounded awesome. Another German band came over with them, and it was Destruction. This was the human cannonball era of Destruction.
I was going to say, but it was that Destruction, wasn't it?
Yep. And I was psyched. like 2 rows back. I can't believe I'm going to see fucking Destruction. Out came this guy, this lone singer, wearing a t-shirt with a star on it, and it said Star above it. And they ripped into this shit that I've never heard the albums, but what they played that day, it sounded like grunge to me.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as it started, the shit started raining down on them. Fucking garbage. People were throwing beer fucking glasses at them. What the fuck? Throwing shit. And the guy's like dodges up. Come on, guys. You know, like knock it off type of stuff. He's like trying to perform, you know, like he's into it, ignoring it, laughing at stuff. And you could tell they were mentally broken by this showering of garbage upon them. I just couldn't believe that after all these years, I was seeing Destruction for the first time ever, and it was this garbage, because it's garbage. And who else?
That's heartbreaking.
Merciful Fate. It was the first. Was that this one? Let me see. Yep, Merciful Fate. First time I ever saw them. I think it was during the 9 era.
Yep.
They were great. Right. It was on a big stage, and for all his flaws, Jack Koshik, he would get a very wide swath of bands, which was Sadist played. I missed them. Mm-hmm. Emperor. I saw the first North American appearance of Emperor, and the dude playing keyboards, Charman Grimlock, I believe it was, the guy from Tartaros. He did not have the right power converter for his keyboard, so when the band started, he ran off the stage and dove into the crowd and basically watched the band play for the whole thing. It was kind of cool. It was during the Anthems era.
Yeah.
But this whole era, you know, I was starting to get more involved with publicists, and they'd get you, and we were starting to grow as a zine. The guy, I can't remember the guy's name, there was a publicist for Century Media. He's like, come on, I want you to meet the guys from Emperor. I'm like, no, man, I'm good. Yeah, they're right here. Hey, Isan and Samuth were talking to somebody, and he's like tapping him drunk on the shoulder. Isan. He turns around annoyed, and he's like, what? I want you to meet Marty from Wormgear Metal Maniacs. Isan looks at me and goes, hello. I'm like, hi. He turns back around, starts talking to the guy he was talking to, and I'm like, dude, fuck off. I told you I didn't want to meet him anyway. You're just a drunk asshole at this point, making me look like an idiot and yourself. But these metal fests, they were a revelation. I mean, you know, I'm looking at Tourniquet on the bill up against, you know, all these other bands that we got Dawn. I don't know if it's Dawn from Sweden, is it?
I don't know. That'd be cool.
I can't believe that they played and I didn't see that. There's just so much shit going on. There's so many bands. From Brutal Death, Gorguts played, Iced Earth, Immolation, Impaled Nazarene. You know, you talked about, you know, being drunk idiots. I saw Nika Lutunen so absolutely annihilated drunk. There was like these stairs going between the floors of this ballroom. He was like on the second tier of the stairs, crumpled in a pile, drunk. People were stepping over him to go up the stairs, and there was like this woman with him trying to get him up, and he was like completely wasted out of his mind. And then like an hour later, he was up on stage crushing. I'm like, how do you go from a crumpled mess on the floor to up there nailing all the words, you know, flipping people off and doing your thing? I'm like, holy shit, that's fucking praise to my Finnish brethren there, because the alcoholic line is strong in them. But what a great show. I mean, it was my first experience there. I think this was the year. Let me see here. Was this? Yep. This was the only year you'd go out in the courtyard to smoke, and you'd hear gunshots in the distance, because, you know, that was the side of Milwaukee that wasn't great. And my buddy Jason, who's not really a metalhead, he just went to help carry zines, and he had a great time at these things. We're standing talking to Daniel from the Chasm out in this courtyard. We're standing there. I've told this story on here before. We're talking to Daniel, and Jason looks at me. He's like, my fucking leg's getting wet. I'm like, really? And we turn at the same time. We turn around, look, and there's this drunk guy behind him, pissing on the ground next to him. The guy's dick was probably this long. It looked like a baby leg. It was like a fucking baby leg. Pissing, and the guy's like, "Sorry, man, friendly fire." And Daniel's like, "Oh man, that's sick." The whole way back to the hotel, Jay's like, "I can't believe I got fucking pissed on by some idiot." Oh my god, so fucking funny. I mean, these shows, there's so much shit going on. It was hot, it was miserable, but you know, and for all of his flaws, Jack Koshka, he did a great job bringing, you know, European and Scandinavian bands over, mixed with a good mix of, you know, U.S. bands. It was a cool experience to see, you know, Impaled Nazarene, Sodom, Destruction, even though they sucked. Mayhem played. Gorguts from Canada. Tons and tons and tons of bands. Absolutely great. And there's a long list. I'll probably jump into the 1999. You know, I might as well do it now because I'm rambling on. 1999.
Mm-hmm.
Recognize this guy, Jurgen?
Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was at
Of
the
course.
99 Milwaukee Metal Fest. In Europe, he was a PR guy for Relapse Records.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was over. Me and my buddy Jason spent a lot of time in the Relapse VIP room, which means they had a ton of microbrew beers on tap at your disposal, and all the bands were in there smoking tons of pot. And I'm like, dude, I mean, this guy here, the early Morgoth stuff, this guy, his vocals rivals that of Chuck Schuldiner for sure. He's got the same evil Chuck, and I always fucking worshipped his fucking vocals, man. And I'm like, we're talking, I'm like, dude, this is cheesy as fuck, but I want to get a picture with you just because I love your shit. That was awesome.
Cool.
99, Daniel from the Chasm. Yes, I'm wearing a Bud Light hat because fuck all these microbrew shit. Of course, John from Incantation. But no, these festivals were so much fun. Well, who was 99? Let's see.
99 was Cradle of Filth was the big one.
Were you there that year?
I went to that one. Cradle of Filth and Misfits were two of the big headliners.
Waco Jesus.
Yeah, because they were selling the Jesus T-shirts for Cradle of Filth, and every other person at that fest bought one and was wearing it the whole time.
Yep. Living Sacrifice. You talk about this is a band. I gotta say, I gotta give them the salute. They're in the Lion's Den. Here's a Christian band in a very non-Christian venue talking about Jesus. And people were like, Jesus sucks, fuck you. And the guy be like, that's your opinion, man. And even though they weren't that great, it wasn't a great era for Living Sacrifice. I applaud their balls for going and, speaking their message in a room full of fucking drunk, godless heathens,
Yeah.
These shows were so much fun, and a lot of great memories from it, and gave away a lot of magazines, met a lot of people. It was a lot of fun. Really cool. Good shows.
Yeah, 99 had that year they had some problems with bands not showing up. There were some bigger no-shows that year, if I remember right. But I think that was In Flames. It might have been their first North American show.
Was The Gathering that year?
The Gathering was that year. It was one of their first, maybe their very first time playing North America. They sounded great. It was the year too that.
But it's cool they were there.
Yeah, on day 2 they gave one of the stages to there was a separate tour going through America at the time with a bunch of UK punk bands, and they had set it up where they had one stage for the afternoon in the building, and a lot of them were very, very good. It was a lot of older bands, mostly UK Subs was one of them. And so, like you were saying, they were had brought in a lot of different stuff, and a lot of folks actually were really excited about the punk stage because a lot of those bands did a great job.
That was the only time I ever saw Death too. And that was with I was sitting on the balcony overlooking the stage watching Death play, and I was focused on Richard Christie, who's now basically just shitting his pants and peeing on shit for Howard Stern. But watching him play drums was amazing. I mean, he's blasting away, doing all this technical shit, drops a stick, continues to play with his hand until he can grab another stick, and it's just like, fuck, man, so good. People on top of their game, musicians on top of their game, are so inspiring to watch. And it's probably Sound of Perseverance. Was that when that had to be?
It had to
be that year. But great, man, great times, good shit, great festival. It's really sad it's gone. I guess the Maryland Death Fest picks up, but man, I can't drive 15 hours one way. It's a 2-day trip there and back, or 1 day there, 1 day back, and then 3. It's like I'll be gone a week from home. That's fucking. I just can't do it right now. I just can't do it these days. But Jurgen, back to you, man. Sorry, we're ranting and raving. Sorry.
It's
Cheers.
no problem.
Cheers to LG again. Going down.
Skull. You were talking about seeing death live and watching drummers. I've seen them a couple of times with Gene Hoglan playing.
Yep.
And they played. He played the really busy stuff, the really, let's call it jazzy stuff from the Human album.
Yep.
And he was like, and he always wears his glasses.
Yep.
And he's playing a fill, and in between his glasses were like just a little bit up there, and he was like, this looked so funny, like.
Darkness Ascends.
Yeah, Darkness Ascends.
Darkness Ascends.
Okay, let's talk about festivals. The first open air festival I saw was a Rock Hard open air in June 1990.
Fucking Running Wild are so great.
Just look at that lineup. It's Protector,
God.
Moderate, Sepultura during the Beneath the Remains tour, Sacred Reich before they put out The American Way, Tankard, and Running Wild on the Death or Glory tour.
Does it say Protector on there too? Awesome.
Yeah, down there.
Yep.
And it's signed by another rest in peace Protector drummer. Martin, his name. I can't remember his name now, but the Protector drummer signed my ticket. So can you imagine a 15-year-old watching that billing?
My God, that's amazing.
I just went crazy.
Yep.
And I know most of the people watching this are American, and I'm gonna annoy the fuck out of every US Running Wild fan now. I've seen them on the Pile of Skulls tour in 93.
Nice.
I've seen them on the Black Hand In tour in 94.
Nice.
And on a festival tour in 95 with Rage, a Gravedigger, and it says und andere, which means and more. And the more was Gamma Ray on the first tour with Hansen back on singing, on the microphone, which was what's that album called?
Land of the Free.
Land of the Free, yeah, right. And Iced Earth on their first tour with Matt Barlow singing.
What a lineup. Holy shit balls.
And I was just checking out prices of these old tickets. In Germany, we had the Deutschmark back then. Mm-hmm. And one Deutschmark is around about $2.
Okay.
Was back then.
Yep.
Roundabout.
Okay.
And those festivals were very, very cheap. Not even 40 Deutschmarks.
Jesus.
So did I annoy any Running Wild fan now?
Yes.
I'm envious. I've got the song Soulless in my head. Soulless. Evil burns in your heart.
Yeah, and Running Wild was a great live band. They, as far as I remember, they played only one US tour.
Yes.
Yep. And it didn't go well for them.
Yeah.
Which is really sad.
Yeah, and then right at that point, they decided, okay, let's concentrate on the European market.
Tanker did the same thing, and so did Kai Hansen with Gamma Ray. He said, "Fuck US."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, Gamma Ray concentrated on very much on the Japanese market. They were huge over there.
Yeah.
I talked a little bit with Tobias from Edguy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same that continued throughout the ages, with European power metal being so big in Japan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I would have loved to go over to Japan as well, but we're not playing power metal.
Well, I'm sure you would have had amazing sound too. I get another feeling they take really good care of the bands that come through there. They get excellent sound systems, proper sound checks.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I heard a lot of.
I spent $60 on that new Halloween. I bought the 2 CD set. I think the US and European version. Then I bought the 4 bonus track Japanese edition for $60 fucking dollars. But I had to have it. Japanese editions always have more shit.
I want to say something, but as somebody who owns 10 copies of Ample Destruction, I'm just going to be quiet now. You carry on. You shine on, you crazy diamond.
Yep. Well, I'm envious. I would love. In fact, this week I watched a couple Running Wild shows. I watched a Wacken performance, and then something back in 2002. I don't know what tour that was for, but God, they were so good, so good.
New album just dropped.
I know, and I don't like the second to the last song, but it's pretty okay. It's okay. I like it.
Yeah, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. Yeah.
Indeed. Yep.
Where the hell are we at? Alan's next.
Did you like the Wacken performance?
The vocals were a little low in the mix, but it was okay. It was in 2019, I think, was the date. It was the I think was the performance 2019.
Mm-hmm.
It was okay.
2018 or 19, yeah.
The 2002 performance was way better. A lot more energy.
A lot more energy, yeah, right.
Rolf's vocals were way out more in the mix, and a little bit more energetic. Although with the Wacken performance, they did play Genghis Khan off of the first album, which I was quite surprised by, and it sounded great. It just hearing that now after all the years of Running Wild, I remember when Gates of Purgatory came out, and then I heard the pirate metal stuff. I thought it was a humongous change, but hearing that song in a set list of all the newer shit, it still fits. It's still them. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking back then? Because it's not. I like both eras, but it seems so much more different back then than it does now. It seemed you could tell it's the same fucking band that wrote it. You know.
Okay. Talking about the Death or Glory era. I just recently found out Ian Finlay, their drummer back then. He's Irish or Scottish, I can't remember, but he lives about 10 walking minutes from me.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Not even driving minutes, it's walking minutes.
Huh.
grab some beer and go over and knock on his door and say, hey, you sign my ticket stubs?
I actually thought about it. Have you seen Metal Mickey's Running Wild video?
I watched it yesterday. It was really good.
I haven't seen
it. Great job on it.
And he said in the beginning, if somebody from Running Wild was watching, and I'm now thinking, trying to track down Ian Finlay, show him that video.
No, he did a good job on that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. I love his dry British humor.
I do too. And the one video he did where he got a record from Amazon that Amazon just wrapped in like cellophane and put a thing on it, and it was all him bitching about it in the car at the post office was so fucking funny. I watched it twice. What the fuck? You know, it was just so fucking funny watching bitch and whine about that. It was so great. No, I dig his channel on occasion. That Running Wild video was really good though.
Yeah, it was. I have to take a short piss.
Go for it. It's Alan's turn.
It's all good.
The trough here.
Indeed. Let's see. I haven't told any Texas story yet, so let's do a Texas story. Lived in West Texas for several years. And yes, talk about geographic distance problems for seeing shows. A lot of if folks aren't familiar with Texas's layout, most of the big cities are, more on the eastern side of the state. Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, all the places where you're going to see people play.
Austin's a big music town.
Yes, a huge music town. Where does Alan end up, though? I end up in Lubbock, which is on the other side of the state, way up in the Panhandle. And when it's on the other side of the state, it's a solid 6-hour drive from Lubbock just to get to Dallas.
Yeah.
And I mean, and there's nothing in between, so it's very much out there, on the prairie. So yeah, lucky me. The funny thing was that Lubbock apparently had a decent little metal scene during the 1980s. Now when I got there, it was like the mid 90s. But, as I started, to meet a couple of folks and dig around in record stores, there was tons of old, used heavy metal records and cassettes and stuff, in all these stores that nobody had obviously touched in years. I mean, I'd, go in and wipe the dust off all of them to see what they were. But yeah, and then talking with folks like, yeah, lots of people, there was a scene here because it made a very convenient stopover for place for bands that were traveling from Dallas or Austin or San Antonio and heading further west to get over to places like Phoenix or Santa Fe or anything like that. If they were heading towards the southwest, you can't make the whole drive at once. And it was, about the only thing in between. So it's like, well, yeah, you could drive, 6 hours, get to Lubbock or Abilene or Amarillo rather, and, go ahead and maybe, get in another small show before you moved on further west. So, a lot of bands had played Lubbock in the past, and as such, there'd been a little scene. So yeah, bands would still do that sometimes. So I got to see several decent metal bands, while I lived out there. Saw Fate's Warning. This was on the Pleasant Shade of Grey tour. They played the entire album start to finish and then finished up with a handful of older tracks. Saw Dio play out there. This was again mid-90s Dio. I have no idea what he was touring for, but got to meet him. He did a record signing at one of the local record stores. So I've got an autographed copy of Rainbow's Long Live Rock and Roll that he signed for me.
Nice.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. I'll go dig it up in a minute or two. I should have pulled it earlier, but yeah. Who else do we see? Saw Misfits again. They showed up in Lubbock and they made the local newspaper. I don't remember if anybody was actually protesting them coming to town, but it did make the little Lubbock newspaper that horror punk band to play Lubbock kind of thing. But the big one I got to see was Judas Priest. I had never seen him before. This was the Ripper Owens era of Judas Priest. Jugulator came out, and the album hasn't aged well, but it wasn't that bad at the time. At least myself and the other guys were checking it out. We all felt like, okay, yeah, it's kind of can see how they built on Painkiller to make this, and Owens does a decent Rob Halford impersonation. So yeah, it was decent enough album in its day. And then we found out they were actually going to play in Lubbock, which was, okay, this was really, really cool, getting to see, one of the big metal giants play. But again, this is mid-90s America. And like Jurgen mentioned earlier, metal bands did not, do well in this time. So, this is, Judas fucking Priest, and they're just playing in this little, sort of, rinky-dink local bar.
Was there a mechanical bull in this bar?
We'll get to that.
Oh, fucking course.
The answer is no, but give me a moment or two. So yeah, we me and a couple of friends, get tickets. We go check them out. Sounded very good energy. They looked good on stage. Owens was obviously having a great time. even though it wasn't a huge venue or anything, you could tell he was just happy to hey, to be in the band and playing and getting to do the priest stuff. The one thing, I don't remember a lot of the set list at this point. The funny thing that happened at that show was it was not a very wide place, and over off to one side of the stage, they had a couple of steps that went up on it. Again, it's a small bar setting, and there's a couple of girls over there on the side, and one of them is completely decked out in sort of 80s hot lady metal apparel, shall we say, and it just head to toe, completely dolled up. And Owens would be singing, and of course looking to either side, to see what Glenn and KK are doing, and every time he would look to his left, she'd be over there and she'd do a little hi, kind of wave at him, and he'd just kind of smile and wave back. And this went on 2 or 3 passes back and forth. And it's finally one point where one of the guys is doing a solo, and he kind of glances over it again, and you see her just do this, just like the come here, and he looks at her and just he drops his head, shook his head, and was just like, and went back to singing. You could just God damn it, you're right in the middle of this song. I can't come over there right now. But you could tell he wanted to. Any man would have wanted to, the way she was flirting with him. So, fun show. I'm sure he had a very enjoyable time later that evening. But we also found out as we were wrapping up, some folks, were talking outside, says, yeah, man, that was awesome. I can't wait to see him again tomorrow night. We're like, wait, they're playing again tomorrow night? Well, they're playing up in Amarillo, which is about 2 hours due north of Lubbock. And so we're looking at each other, just like, well, fuck this. We didn't know they were playing there. Didn't have tickets. We're like, screw it. We're going to drive. We're just going to hop in the truck tomorrow. We'll drive up to the place. Odds are they'll still have tickets. Even though these are smaller places, they're not selling out or anything.
It's Jugulator, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah, well, again, it's also West Texas. You'll take whatever fucking entertainment you can get that's not country music. Mm-hmm. But the next night we drove up to Amarillo, found the place, went up to say, hey, Judas Priest tickets? They're like, oh yeah, we still got them. I was like, cool. This place did have a mechanical bull inside.
Yes.
This was very much more of a cowboy bar than the other place. It had a much wider kind of stage, but a lot of it was laid out very funny. A lot of tables in the way, more like support beams in the way. Yes, the mechanical bull in one corner. So it was a weird layout. It was they still played well. It was still a good show. I was glad we went. It was a lot harder to do very much. The crowd, it was kind of hard to see what was going on or find a good place, just because the way the place was laid out was not really meant for a big crowd of folks to try to scrunch up and see what was going on. But anyway, I got to see Judas Priest on back-to-back nights on the Jugulator tour out in the middle of nowhere in West Texas, which was pretty cool.
Did you get on the mechanical bull and sing Turbo Lover while you were riding?
I went for Desert Plains myself, given the setting.
Yeah. Right on. Jurgen, you're up.
No, I'm not.
That's you, Mr. Marty.
You know what? I could talk about some other shit, but I just want to say, in 1977 or 78, I saw Kiss on TV. It kind of changed my whole world. Big Kiss fan. I've kind of embarrassingly admitted here this year, as I was listening to some Kiss albums, that Kiss is my favorite band. I'm embarrassed to admit that. I don't know why, but it's true. It's been the band that's been my closest friend since I was 7 or 8. Right or wrong, good or bad, it's the fucking way it goes. Have I ever seen Kiss? Never.
Really?
Never seen Kiss.
I did, and I hate them.
Yep. And there was up here. There's 2 casinos now, but back when this happened, there was one casino, Shabby Town, heading up the peninsula there. They had a Kiss tribute band called Kiss Army. Kiss Army.
Yeah.
So I went to Kiss Army with some friends. I was fucking shit hammered. I lost a bunch of money in the casino. I went to Kiss Army fucking shit hammered. Bad. Real bad. And
Did you bite a stripper?
I did not bite a stripper.
Okay, then you weren't shit hammered that bad.
Out of the 10 or 20 girls that were dancing up in front of the stage, I ran up there. I was one of them. I was up there. Woo!
Okay, did anybody bite you, Marty?
No, I was drunk girl screaming in between songs. Fuck yeah, fake Paul Stanley, woo! And fake Paul Stanley threw me a guitar pick. It bounced off my chest. I went to try to catch it and fell down. I got it. I don't know where the fuck it went. It's not here anymore. But that was probably one of the most fun shows I've ever been at because they played a lot of songs I wanted to hear. Like they played hits, but then they played like more deeper cuts off the early albums. It was cool. It was like they were Kiss from Destroyer backwards. So I mean, it was cool. They're all decked out. They looked good. They sounded good. Of course, it could have been a bunch of guys dressed up as Kiss farting on a mic for an hour. I was so fucking drunk it wouldn't have mattered. But it was probably one of the most fun shows I've ever been to. I acted like a fucking idiot and got drunk and had a great time. And yeah, I never seen Kiss, but I saw the next best thing. I saw Kiss Army tribute band. So
that's pretty cool. I'm amazed you haven't seen Kiss, as
never
big a
seen
fan
Kiss.
as you are.
Never seen Kiss. Again, I've got a bunch of videos of them. I've seen them on video. So I don't need to see Kiss. I'm good. There was a time in my life I probably could have and been psyched about it, but I mean, let's face it, they're the cheesiest, shittiest band ever. And the fact that I say that they're one of my favorite bands, it's a childhood thing. That's where I grew up listening to Neil Diamond and Mac Davis records from my parents. And Rita Coolidge and Kenny Rogers and Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson. That was where my musical journey started. And then I saw Kiss. And once I saw Kiss, it I started to love music. I'd buy records, or my grandma would buy me records, and they never discouraged it. We listened to them together. I listened to them by myself. I was obsessed. My rooms were covered with Kiss posters. And then, I started finding heavier shit, Sabbath, Ozzy, Dio. It's a progression. You start here. This is your jumping in point. I mean, I think we've all been there.
Sure.
Then you hear heavier and heavier and heavier. And before you know it, you're in Iron Maiden, and then you hear Merciful Fate, and you're like, what the fuck is this? Or you hear, Metallica's Ride the Lightning was a big revelation for me up here in Northern Michigan. I heard that album, Trapped Under Ice. I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is garbage. But then I listened to it a couple more times. I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever heard. What is this? It's like, one thing about being old, like today, I was telling Jurgen, we were getting ready for this shit, and I'm looking through, I found like packages of old band photos and shit where I had hair and I wasn't 5,000 pounds, and I started getting bummed out. Like, fuck, time is, I'm looking at these pictures of time passing, and but the one thing I'm thankful for being older, I was able to go through a lot of different genres. We grew with these genres. We start off lighter, you get heavier and heavier and heavier, and here we are. I'm fucking 50 years old now, and I don't have the record collection that Jurgen does, but the records I have, I've got a lot of nostalgia and personal connection to, and we all do. That's why we're still doing this and listening to this young man's music, and but it's not. There's so much in I've gone through so many occurrences where I hear people say, "Oh, I outgrown that shit." What the fuck are you talking about? You outgrown this shit. The shit is just, it resonates at a certain level that makes sense to me, and it makes sense to us. It's just, I don't know. I'm getting drunk. Sorry. Anyway, who's next? Jurgen.
Talking about old band pictures, here's one of me. That's me down there.
Yep.
That is 25 years since that picture. And now, like, I'm getting fat and old and sloppy and spongy.
Here's me with my old hardcore band for people that want to see me with hair and not wearing a hat. That was before it all fell out and slid down my back, and I gained a cool cursed Morgoth shirt, by the way.
Yeah, I had that. I had that as well. Yeah.
Yep. Anyway.
Okay, I think that titty biting story will follow me, but I have to admit I never bit a man boob.
Yet. You haven't did it yet.
That might change.
That might change. I'm coming to your area. They're coming in nice. Is all I gotta say.
Kiss Army is playing 10 minutes down the street from you. They're dancing.
I'm gonna. My next lap dance. It will be you, Marty.
How much you got? It won't take much. A couple more White Claws, I'll be white girl drunk.
I'm gonna pay you in vinyl if that's okay for you.
That's good. That works for me.
We'll film it as Worms Gone Wild.
Pretty well, yeah.
You want to hear another short tour story?
Absolutely.
You know a band called Ildispost from Denmark?
Yep.
Heard the name. I don't know anything about them.
You know their reputation?
Nope.
For being hooligans and beating up people randomly?
Nope.
No?
No, I've never heard this.
They are quite famous for that in Europe. And we did a quite lengthy tour with Ildispost and Ancient from the Land of the Damned.
Why is Ancient on that bill? That makes no fucking sense.
No, it didn't.
It makes no fucking sense.
The response to that was, not too good. But we were big Ildispost fans, but we were a little bit scared because we had to share the bus with them for 2.5 weeks.
Wow, that's a
full of concerts.
Yep.
Every day. Okay, we got on the bus. We met them at the airport in Amsterdam, and we picked them up. We already had a lot of beers, and we had a case of beer left. They jumped on the bus. They said, "We are the headlining band. This is our beer," and grabbed it from us. And we started arguing and fighting on the bus on the very first minute we met.
Oh my God.
And it was so much fun. We just kept on doing that the whole tour. We were slapping each other like really, really hard. So you've got like a red cheek after that.
Yep.
It's like something like that. And we continued to do that. The merchandise guy on that tour was Paul Speckman from Master.
Yep.
He lives in Czech Republic right now. Not 200 miles from me, something like that. And every time, Paul Speckman, when he starts, he's always, "Hey, brother."
Yeah, like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Hey, brother. Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, brother," and everybody in Ildispost, "Speckman, shut up." That was quite funny. So we got to Italy, I guess. Yeah, it was Italy. We had a day off, and we were searching for a swimming pool or a sauna or something like that to just wash off the dirt from the road. We asked some Italian people, and they said, "You have to walk over the border." It was the border to Switzerland. There's within 10 walking minutes, there's a swimming pool. So we got there, and in Switzerland, everything is so fucking expensive. So we were maybe 7 or 8 people. They were going in the swimming pool and they charged so much. The guitar player in ill-disposed and I said, no, we're not going to spend that much money just for an hour to take a shower and go to the sauna. So we said, okay, go on in there. We're gonna get back and hit the next pub over there. So we sat in, had a few drinks, and we decided, okay, let's do a challenge. Who can do more days without a shower?
Oh, no.
Imagine
The
being on
scumbag challenge.
imagine being on tour. You play every night, and you're sweating like a pig.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You started, and you're drinking way too much. You're smoking, so you stink anyways. So we decided not to do it. He lasted 10 days or something, and I quit that competition after 9 days because my bandmates were about to beat me up for that. So that was a funny tour.
Yeah.
I'm still good friends with ill-disposed.
Awesome.
They are not dangerous anymore. They are old men now.
Yep. It happens. It gets to us.
Yeah. But every time ill-disposed plays around in the area, I'm going to see them.
Right.
Sometimes they come over to Germany just for a barbecue. So, like I said, still good friends.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Alan.
Let's see. Since other folks are breaking up pictures, my wife's watching in the other room and texted over an old one of us. This is her and I and Johnny Lundquist from Nocturnal Rites when they played Prog Power in Atlanta. Trying to remember what year this was. It's 2008, 2009, somewhere around in there. So it's been about 15 years ago. So that's a younger me and a younger her and Johnny in between. They were absolutely magnificent at that show. We never went to Prog Power many times. Well, they always have a pretty good bill. It's a relatively expensive show to go to, even for us just driving over there and getting a hotel for a couple of nights. So, but yep, she wanted me to show that. So there you go, sweetie.
Hi, Mel.
We're good now. But let's see, one other story. Yeah, sure. Another one from around that time frame was there was a small Doom festival that did some shows. I don't know how much they traveled around, but amazingly they stopped in Asheville, North Carolina, which does get metal shows from time to time. It's a very artsy city. It's almost like a miniature version of Austin, Texas. But they have a decent music scene, and they will get heavier bands from time to time. We've seen Blind Guardian play up there before. Let's see, I think that was the show where my Leaves Eyes was opening for them. One of the kind of Nightwish clone type bands. My wife really likes them.
Ugh, sorry, I'm not a fan.
That's okay. It's certainly not a style for everybody, but my wife listened to them a lot.
Alex Kroll fell far from where he started.
Very different than his old days with Atrocity. But yeah, my wife, the lead singer Liv was talking to folks after the show. Yeah, they opened, and then she was out there in her big fancy corseted dress, talking to folks and all. And my wife just obsesses on her, just goes completely fangirl. It's just like, I love your album so much. It's so good. And I ordered your other album. And just it's watching it. It's hilarious because it's one of those things where I could kind of tell it's just she literally physically couldn't stop talking. And she was you could kind of see in her brain, she's she knew she was supposed to stop talking, but she couldn't stop talking. And
she's in the other room right now going, it wasn't that way. Fuck you.
Yeah. No, she asked before she started tonight. She's like, you're going to tell the story about me and Leaves Eyes, aren't you? I'm just I might. She's just go ahead. It's fine. So no, I have permission for this one. But yeah. And Liv was, being really nice about it, just very patient, very pleasant. And by dumb luck, Melissa was like the last person in line to talk to her. The second act, has started, so a lot of people had already gone back inside. Yep. Melissa just could not stop talking to her. She's just like, I work in a marine biology lab, and I'm doing like all this weird chemical stuff, and like I'm like working like 6 hours a night, and I just like I'll play your CD over and over again while I'm processing the samples, and like describe, she was like starting to describe like all this scientific equipment. It's like, and I've got Leaves' Eyes on in the background because your music's so pretty. She just couldn't. I'm just thinking to myself, like, I should go over there and rescue the lady and just like drag her away, but now I'm just going to see how long this goes on. So I just watched, and they just could not stop talking. But finally, eventually, I think Melissa just got dehydrated and was like, okay. And yes, the girl just scurried away as fast as she could in that crazy oversized dress. But so that was fun watching them. But anyway, Asheville got this. I think it was called something like Planet Caravan Festival, and it was more like doom stoner rock bands. And this would have been around 2010, maybe 2011, right in there. And the big draw for me was Pentagram was playing. I am a little bit of a Pentagram fanboy. I think some folks might have picked up on that before. I had never had a chance to see them before, and Pentagram's of course, it revolves around Bobby, and he has a very long history of being unreliable live. Sometimes he'll show up and do the show and he'll be good, and other times he'll show up and do the show bad, and other times he won't even show up. So this was during the time where he was reportedly kind of getting his shit together for the first time in a long time. And so figured, going to take a chance on it. I know what I am getting into. There's a good chance we go check this out, and it's a complete bust in terms of Pentagram. But there were some other good bands on the bill. This was one of those fests where it was spread out amongst like 2 or 3 different venues downtown in Asheville. So that's not my wife's style of music. The lead singers don't wear long dresses and corsets, so she's not that into it.
And their music isn't necessarily pretty.
But so she just like, you just go have fun. I'm going back to the hotel and checking out that stuff. So we split up for the night. But yeah, it was a really good festival. I got to see Gates of Slumber play in a small bar, and this was right before Hymns of Blood and Thunder came out, and they were really good. They're really, really tight. They had a really good reaction from the crowd. Everybody was really into it. I got to speak to the guys just briefly for a couple of minutes afterwards, while they were breaking stuff down. They were really, you could tell they were just really happy. They knew they had played really well, and they were really happy the crowd was into it. They were really jazzed up about going to see Pentagram too. Like, it's like, we want to talk more, folks, but we got to get this shit put away so we can get over to the other place before Pentagram plays. Orange Goblin played on that festival.
I like some of their early stuff. I like that band.
Their stuff's not bad. It's not something I want to hear very often, but I will play time traveling blues from time to time.
Yeah, I went through a phase with that shit. It didn't last long, and I rarely ever revisit it. But I do like Fu Manchu and Nebula and Caius.
Yep, kind of the same here. Caius I like a lot more. Now that's the one I'll play regularly, but I can play time traveling blues every now and then. I just need to hear it once, and then it's put back away and I'm done with it. But they were very, very good live. They were a lot of fun. They had really good sound, good energy, interacting with the crowd.
Right? They're from England.
Yep. So they were really good. And then Penta, as soon as they were sort of wrapping up, I was already I was like, I've pissed. I'm not drinking anything. I'm weave my way right up to the front, onto the edge of the stage. Yeah, and I just plant myself. I'm just like, there's no force, on this earth that's going to move me off of this stage until Pentagram finishes playing, or they announce that Bobby's passed out, doped out, drugged out in the back, and isn't going to play.
His arms rotted off.
How that man is still alive after all the shit he's done, it defies all logic.
No. Crazy.
But I lucked out. That night he was spot on. He was clean. He was straight. He was on time. He looked amazing. He performed incredible. He sounded
Well, I
good.
wouldn't say he looked amazing.
Did he look as good as, was he good enough to to bite on a pole dance? No.
He looks like a homeless wizard.
But I mean, he was very much in full force that night. He was on top of his game, gave a great performance for everything. He looked better than that. He would almost have to. But yeah, it was a very good show. Loved the whole thing. At the very end, they hadn't announced it, but for the encore, Victor Griffin was present and came out and did a couple of songs with them as the encore. And I just lost my shit. I didn't even pretend to be cool or anything about it. Yeah, I just went total fanboy.
So you're like me at the fake Kiss show.
I right there on. I seriously, nothing moved me off the front of that stage. People, hitting me and stuff in the back and bouncing around. Just like, I don't give a. If they can knock me unconscious and drag me away, I'm not moving from this fucking spot. I am exactly where I want to be, and just the whole time, loved it to death. I was really, really glad I got to see them. And actually got to see them, not just see them do 2 or 3 songs before he's passed out and they have to drag him to the back. So that was the one and only time I'll probably ever see Pentagram, but it worked out quite good. All right, Marty.
We have actually supported Pentagram on one occasion.
Really cool. When was that?
And as you are a collector of Pentagram stuff, you know that record?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, you have that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course.
It's back here somewhere.
Hey, Alan, you should show Jurgen my only Pentagram album that I sent you. It's a one of a kind.
Oh yeah, give me a second, Marty. Take your turn. I'll dig out a couple of things real quick.
All right, it's my turn. I guess I will end my. I mean, people, please, if you have more stories, tell them. But I'm going to end with again, being in northern lower Michigan, not ever having really good bands come here is just kind of the way it is. And when there was a less than a mile from my house, there used to be a nightclub called Ground Zero. Mostly dance and raps type stuff, but they had Guar here. They brought Mastodon here and Clutch. But for me, the big ones were Testament and different times. Testament, Death Angel, and Anthrax have all played here. So I got to see Gene Hoglan less than a mile from my fucking house. All these bands that I grew up with. I mean, I love the American thrash scene. I love it, but I fucking worship the European thrash scene. The Germans, I mean, all that shit. So much more dark and fucking savage and great. But, Testament, Anthrax, soft spot in my heart. And the fact that Testament played here with Death Angel, or was it Anthrax and Death Angel? I can't fucking remember right now. I'm drunk. But it was so cool to see them here. They came all the way up from the southern Michigan to up here to play. Anthrax were great. And the cool thing aside was our drummer now in the Glorious Dead, he was in a band back in the day here, moved to Florida for many, many years, came back and came up and reintroduced himself to me and my buddy TJ and said, I was in this band, Reasonable Deception. We used to play shows back in the day here in Traverse. I'm like, oh shit, that's right. Well, one thing led to another. There's not many drummers up here. He's a great drummer. He ended up joining me and TJ, and the Glorious Dead was born. So there's a lot of sentimental value with that, show with me as well. But now that venue, Ground Zero, has been sold. The guy that Doug Street that owned the place sold it to the Baptists, so it's now a church. The only fucking club in town is now a fucking church. Anyway. Alan, show them what you got there. The one of a kind Pentagram album.
Sure. Well, before I show that, something else I had promised I would show. Yep. Oh, yeah. Got that autographed by Ronnie at Ralph's Records in Lubbock, Texas, which was a long running local record store. So
Very nice penmanship.
Yep. It was very nice, clear. Just there was a very long line of folks. I just I literally walked up and said, hey, love your music. Really excited to see you for the first time. He's like, thanks, that's cool. And yep, he's like, what's your name? It's like Alan. So he signed it, to Alan Magic Ronnie James Dio. So they'll bury me with this.
Because of Rainbow Rising, if I were to ever met the man, I probably would have dropped to my knees and cried. Rainbow Rising is so fucking good, and Mob Rules, holy fuck.
Oh yeah,
standing in front of greatness like that, holy shit. Anyway,
greatness.
What?
The other one that
greatness?
yeah. I would, he would dwarf me. I would dwarf him or whatever I'm trying to say. I don't know. I'm drunk. Anyway.
Yeah, Jurgen. So Jurgen, the one that Marty's referring to is while I'm a Pentagram fan, apparently not everybody got into the band quite as much as I did.
I found this at a radio station here in Traverse City.
So Marty recently sent me. It's a copy of their second album, Day of Judgment, and you can see it's got the radio station
WNMC 90.9.
Yep, on the back of the cover, and on the front of the cover. You know how radio stations are. Sometimes they need to add some stickers or notes to remind them what the album's like, what track to play, or something like that. The folks at the YMC were not big fans, I don't think. We got the best part. We get down here to the corner where they have their little note. It's like 1.5 stars. This LP is ultimately boring. It could never stand up to a metal show. It's slow, psychedelic, 60s acid rock like Old Sabbath. Yuck.
One of a kind right there. I bet you don't have that one, Jurgen. Not in your collection.
Are you sure maybe Bobby Liebling wrote that on the album himself, drugged out?
Maybe he had to. Maybe he was. Well, we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there.
All right, Jurgen, you're up.
In talking with folks, that from other shows, Bobby may have done some things in parking lots to get him through the night on occasion. That's all hyperbole and speculation.
No, I've seen his arms in that documentary. It's not speculation. Fucking.
Yep, insane. But yep. So Jurgen, you got one more story that you'd like to wrap things up with for us?
A couple of.
Please do. Go ahead.
The biggest show we ever played was at Summer Breeze. Summer Breeze is the second biggest festival in, I think it's Europe. There's about 35 to 40,000 people. And we played there in 2003. And I went on stage, I think it was Thursday night or Friday night. The intro played, I was walking on stage, I saw the crowd, took a turn and went behind the curtain. Almost took my pants. Yep. That is one story. Another one, we played with Amon Amarth. We played with them a couple of times. I despise this band. I can't stand Amon Amarth. But the people, such great characters. I love them. So I hate them and love them at the same time. Good friends of mine are Punch and Stench. We did a short tour with them. I convinced Martin to smoke some weed with me after he quit 20 years ago. I don't know if that was a good decision.
He broke edge.
If it was a good decision
with
or not.
Jurgen, yep.
Shortly after that, Punch and Stench quit, and he did Holland Tone.
Oh yeah.
Maybe that was my fault.
That was your fault. We'll blame you.
Yeah, we played with Destruction a couple of times. So also great people. I get along with Mike really, really good.
Well,
he's also
anymore. It's Schmear's show now.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Yep.
Schmier is like, he's difficult to deal with. All in all, he's a nice person. We get along pretty well, but he can be very upset for no reason. I don't know how to describe that in a better way. Yeah, that's a word for it in German. He's like, I don't know how to translate it. People who are getting upset for no reason pretty quickly. Is there a word for it?
Hothead.
Hothead in German. It's what's
Hothead would be like getting angry very quickly for very little reason.
Yeah. And he's one of these guys.
Okay.
So, but I have seen him screaming and yelling, but not at me. I have no problem with Marcel, he's called.
Mm-hmm.
Another festival. Just look at the billing.
Simple.
Why in the fuck is Armored? Oh, okay. There's a couple bands on there that I'm a little confused why they're on the bill.
The Almighty. That's
Almighty and Armored Saint. I mean, even Blind Guardian. That is just not right. It's a fucked up bill.
Yeah.
Well, it's a festival. I get. Okay, it's a festival. Yeah, Rock Art Fest.
It's a festival. Yeah. It's back in 1991.
Oh, okay.
I was pretty young back then.
I'll be right back.
Sure.
And you showed a picture of Mark Greve, and I've got my tickets signed by him. So
very cool.
That's it.
Good deal. Yeah, I haven't. That's the Almighty. I was like, that's a weird one, but yeah, once you said the date, okay, yeah, that would make sense. They would have been at a festival back then. Not a bunch of your people.
They played everywhere in Germany. They played with every band. I saw Almighty with Pantera. I saw Almighty with Iron Maiden. I saw them on festivals. I saw them with Black Sabbath on the Dehumanizer tour. They played everywhere. So.
Yeah. They never got very popular in the US, but they did get a pretty big push in the US. The label was definitely trying to build them up to something, but it never quite made it in the US. They weren't bad for that style of stuff, but yeah, just hadn't thought of that band in forever.
They did quite well in Europe. Their singer Ricky Warwick.
Mm-hmm.
His wife was hosting the European version of Headbangers Ball.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
She's called Vanessa Warwick.
Okay, I've heard the name.
She hosted the show, and they were every second Headbangers Ball episode. It was something about the Almighty.
Yep. Yeah, they definitely had that kind of push. I don't remember seeing them on Headbangers Ball in the U.S. They may have had a video they got featured some. I don't remember one. Yeah, but they were the kind of thing that, if you went to the record stores, they'd always have some promo posters of Almighty, or you'd see promo copies, in the store. So, yeah, they had a push, but on stateside they never quite made it big. But all right then. This has been a whole heck of a lot of fun.
Dude, I had a great time.
Me too.
I started out a little rough because, going through some of these old memories, I just started feeling fucking old and terrible and depressed and like, whoa, fuck, this sucks. But good people, good times, good stories. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Maiden with Anthrax. Last tour with Dickinson.
Yep.
And Monsters of Rock show.
Nice. I've seen Maiden once. It was a Brave New World tour, and they were great.
Yeah, they were.
I've
seen Maiden 30 times.
30. Wow.
Jeez. I've seen them once. They've played within driving distance of me twice, and I got to see them one of the two times. But I don't even know what tour it was. I don't know if it was a tour. It wasn't that long ago. Maybe 2014-ish. And by that point they were just constantly on tour. But Alice Cooper opened for them. That was a really fun show.
Okay.
I didn't get to talk about it tonight. Someone spilled beer all over my wife. She was so pissed. But we'll just have to save that one for another time.
First of all, I want to say it's over 6 a.m. in Germany right now. So everybody give Jurgen a round of applause for being a fucking metal soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And Jurgen, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm not finished yet.
Oh, right? Fucking A. Get in there.
No. I'm finished with my stories, but I'm not finished getting drunk.
Well, good, because I want you to stay on the line, because after we sign off from these fine, wonderful 39 people still watching us, we're gonna talk behind the scenes. Okay.
Yeah.
But everybody, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Alan, do you have anything to say?
Just thanks. Hope everybody has enjoyed this. No, it's a little different that we haven't been showing albums so much tonight, but again, with Jurgen's long-running experience of seeing so many bands and playing with so many bands, we figured it'd be something folks would really enjoy hearing about. Getting to hear some of those stories from the road and from these old concerts. That it's part going to shows and seeing bands live is a big part of the heavy metal experience for everybody. So it's always fun to hear those tales from shows in bygone days. I think it's been a whole lot of fun, and hope others have enjoyed it too.
It's been sad we haven't been able to go to many shows lately. So I mean, it's maybe it was a little more fun for people that haven't been able to make it to shows. But
hopefully so.
So thank you for having me. Sorry for my bad English. And
dude, whatever. Your English is perfect. All good.
Yeah.
You're spot on, man.
Yeah. I can do a German accent if you want to.
Whatever.
This has been gonna be very awesome then.
Everybody, go check out Repent Bandcamp. Link in the description. Go check out Jurgen's YouTube page. It's fucking great.
Yep,
he's a great dude. He's got a lot of great records, and he's got a lot of great opinions that I find that I can relate to 94% of the time.
Yes. Just be prepared to spend some time on his channel, because there's tons of good stuff there. You'll want to spend some time really digging through it all.
Go to the his German explanations, his German word explanation videos. They're good, and you'll learn something. It's time for you to learn something. But everybody, our 30th episode. Thank you for hanging out with us for 30 weeks. And Alan, I'll see you next week.
We'll see you soon.
Everybody, take care.